Chapter 324. The messy flags of the war hound's army disappeared at the same time, and a large amount of black flags appeared in the center of the army. They looked very neat, being exactly the same. It was like a dark current was surging forward, causing the soldiers in front of them to retreat. The Southern Xia cavalry did not see the flags, but from the shouts of the surrounding war hounds, they could feel that something was wrong. Only they had already charged out, so it was too late for them to retreat now. The war hound's kingdom's flag. When Dongfang Zhan saw the other side's flag, his eyes popped out and his face turned pale. This is the Fang King army. A new Fang King has appeared on the war hound's plains. Chu Tian was already not unfamiliar with the Fang King title. The war hounds were mostly wolf and dog races, so they worshipped the sharp teeth of wild beasts. So on the war hound's plains, teeth were the totem of most tribes, as well as a symbol of strength and status. It was because of this that the war hounds called the person with the highest status the Fang King. This was translated in the spirit beast language, which meant the king of a human kingdom. There was no Fang King ruling. The war hound's plains were like scattered sand. Even the alliance did not pose a threat. Southern Xia could easily stir up conflict and make their alliance collapse in the blink of an eye. But once the Fang King was born, the war hound's plains would once again become the war hound's kingdom. This meant that Southern Xia would face a large calamity. After the last Fang King fell, the war hound's plains had not had a new Fang King appear for over 100 years. The strength of the major tribes was about the same, and they were fighting over the Fang King. In just a few short months, the war hound's plains had suddenly given birth to a Fang King. There was only one possibility. This generation's Fang King had an overwhelming strength, forcing all the tribes to obey him. Was the previous attack just the prelude? The Fang King's army had moved, but the true battle had just begun? This is bad. It's dangerous. Dongfang Zhan wanted to call back his cavalry, but it was already too late. When the war hound's army quickly separated, a fierce black army appeared from the disorderly army. This was an army of around 100,000 people, all wearing black battle wolves, all wearing war hound's wolf cavalry, and all wielding war horses and large blades. Weapons, equipment, and mounts, the 100,000 war hound's wolf cavalry were the same. Every wolf rider had a black flag on their back. The design of the flag was impressively the terrifying fangs of wild beasts. This army was silent, but they emitted an aura of death, causing a terrifying murderous aura to permeate the entire battlefield. The leader of the wolf cavalry was especially eye-catching. This person was covered in dark golden scale armor, and his burly body was about 2.5 meters tall. His face was full of hideous scars, and one of them was a sword fan, which had almost cut his scalp in half. The wound was full of stitches. He held a huge golden drum, which seemed to contain unimaginable power. When he waved it casually, even the air was distorted. The most eye-catching part is, this war hound's expert was riding a 3-headed demon wolf. The 3-headed demon wolf's entire body was pitch black and hairless. Its skin was rock-like, as if there were flames flowing within its body. This was a level 3 magical beast that would make one's hair stand on end. It was said that it possessed the bloodline of the prehistoric ferocious beast, the 3-headed hellhound. As such, it possessed great strength. Fang King! Fang King! Fang King! The war hounds began to wildly shout. When the two southern summer cavalry charged over, they already saw the war hound's wolf cavalry. The aura of the 3-headed demon wolf made the war horses neigh in unease, and the orderly charging formation fell into chaos. Fang King? He's the Fang King? A cavalry general knew that once a large amount of cavalry began their charge, it was impossible to retreat midway. This was because the cavalry was too large and orders could not be passed on, so retreating would only result in defeat. Since it was like this, why not risk it all, charge? Kill the bandit leader. No matter how strong the Fang King was, Could he block the charge of over 10,000 cavalry? With this wave of cavalry charging at high speeds, even a true spirit expert would die. The Fang King slowly raised the golden drum in his hand, and the several dozen meter range was covered in energy, forming a strong energy field. When the Fang King raised his weapon high up, a small bolt of lightning shot into the sky. Following that, a large dark cloud appeared above the Fang King's head. Purple gold thunder god's drum, release your anger. When the southern summer cavalry charged over, large amounts of lightning appeared in the sky and countless bolts of lightning fell down like rain. Whether it was the cavalry or the war horses, as long as they were hit by the lightning, they would be charred black and die on the spot. The Fang King's casual attack had knocked down at least 200 Southern Summer elite cavalry. The other Southern Summer cavalry all revealed looks of shock. This person's strength far surpassed their imagination. This was not good for them. What is Malum doing? The Fang King did not place the Southern Summer cavalry in his eyes at all as he stared at the fortress in front of him. Since you want me to personally make a move. This new Fang King raised the majestic purple gold drum high up, and his cold voice echoed through the world. Don't leave a single one alive, kill them all. The war drums rumbled. The silent 100,000 demon wolf cavalry received this order, and they suddenly charged forward. Their speed was twice as fast as the Southern Summer cavalry. A blue wave and a black wave collided, and the black wave seemed to be able to destroy everything, instantly submerging the Southern Xia elite cavalry. This battle could not be fought. The mounts of the Southern Xia cavalry were storm horses, and these horses were only level 1 demon beasts. The mounts of the War Hound's kingdom were demon wolves, and these demon wolves were level 2 demon beasts. These demon wolves were at least in the first awakened soul layer. This also meant that even if they didn't consider the strength of the wolf cavalry, the Southern Summer cavalry was facing an army of 100,000 awakened soul cultivators. With this kind of large number and this kind of terrifying scale, they had an overwhelming advantage. The demon wolves had many abilities like bursting forward, using spirit energy to defend, or spitting out demon flames. If it was just one, it would not be considered strong, but with 100,000 of them, it was an incomparably terrifying strength. The War Hound's cavalry were mostly in the first or second awakened soul layer. This army could be considered an elite army even in the large kingdoms of the continent. The elite army of a small country like Southern Xia was not even on the same level, so it was a one-sided slaughter. Countless Southern Summer cavalry were pounced on by the wolves, bitten to death, and torn to shreds. The Fang King charged into the crowd with the flashing purple gold drum in his hand. Wherever the golden drum went, whether it was men or horses, they were all burnt to ashes. It was like there was no one there, no one could stop him at all. Fang King! Fang King! When the War Hound's army saw the terrifying battle strength of the Fang King's army, their morale was raised and they began to wildly counterattack the Southern Summer cavalry. 100,000 cavalry. This was the entire cavalry of the Great Wall Army. They were being wildly slaughtered by the War Hounds right in front of Dongfang Zhan's eyes. The hearts of the Southern Xia army fell to the bottom and they fell apart. They had thought that they had won a moment ago, but they had been completely beaten black and blue by the reality in front of them. Facing this kind of crazy and powerful army, everyone felt fear in their hearts. Kill all the humans! The demon wolf cavalry tore through the Southern Summer cavalry like a giant black sword, stabbing straight at the front-line fortress. The Southern Xia soldiers woke up like they were in a dream, and the various fortress commanders began to busy themselves. Prepare to fight. We have to stop them outside the walls. At this time, the Fang King raised the purple gold thunder god's drum in his hand. Please bestow me strength. A bolt of lightning descended from the sky and landed on the purple gold drum. Kibeo raised his weapon and threw it forward, and the berserk power quickly bombarded the city gate, which had been damaged by the dazzling giant monster. In an instant, a massive hole appeared in the city gate. The southern Xia defenders were sent flying with pitiful cries. Too terrifying! The power of this weapon was simply unheard of. The Fang King's strength was enough to make people feel fear. When the Fang King broke through the city gates, the demon wolf cavalry jumped over the deep and wide moat and charged into the fortress through the gap. The southern Xia generals all shouted out in fear. "The Western Front has been lost! The Western Front has been lost!" Requesting reinforcements, requesting quick reinforcements. The entire fortress was filled with pitiful cries. In front of this terrifying army, the frontline defense that southern Xia was so proud of was like a piece of paper that couldn't withstand a single blow. Dongfang Zhan angrily clenched his fist. This kind of army can't be created in a day. If the War-Hound Plains had this kind of army, how could I not know about it? Where the hell did they come from? Gu Qianxiu persuaded Dongfang Zhan. "Marshal, the frontline fortress can't be defended. We should immediately retreat to Imperial City. You guys leave immediately." Dongfang Zhan also knew that the moment the Fang King broke through the city gates, the frontline defense would be lost. "You guys go back and warn Imperial City to immediately make preparations. Once the frontline defense is broken, the next one to be attacked will be Imperial City. Once Imperial City falls, southern Xia will not be able to protect itself." Meng Qingwu asked, "What about you, old marshal? This old soldier has guarded the front lines for 50 years. Dongfang Zhan raised his spear and faced the charging wolf cavalry. "We will fight to the last moment. Don't say any more. Southern Xia needs you. Quickly leave." The frontline fortress could not withstand another wave of attack. Whether they were willing or not, they had to accept this result. Imperial City did not know what was happening here, so they had to bring this news back to Imperial City. Otherwise, how could Imperial City defend against this terrifying army? Chu Tian advised. "The calm martial ruler is out and Imperial City needs an experienced general. I think the old general should retreat together. The Dongfang family has countless talented generals, and the Nangong family has many generals. Why do we need an old soldier?" Dongfang Zhan seemed like he had already made his decision. "You guys don't need to say any more. This old soldier has guarded the front lines for 50 years and has already disregarded life and death. My blood and my flesh have already fused with the southern Xia country's wall. I will fight to the end for it." Chu Tian knit his brows, but Gu Qianxiu stood up. "Country guarding ruler, Chairman Meng, now that things have reached this point, please respect the old general. Southern Xia still needs you." That's right. It was impossible for a person like Dongfang Zhan to retreat. Even if he knew that he would die if he stayed, for glory, for his faith and for his promise, he would fight to the last second. Gu Qianxiu gathered the remaining griffin riders and gave a griffin to Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu. "Let's go." Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu cupped their hands to Dongfang Zhan. Then they rode the griffin and followed Gu Qianxiu, leaving the front-line fortress. They had to quickly bring this news back to Imperial City, otherwise Imperial City would be in danger. At this time, the front-line fortress was filled with pitiful cries. The Southern Summer Army had suffered heavy casualties. They had already suffered heavy losses, and now the War-Hound's Demon Wolf Cavalry had launched a second wave of attack. In the end, they used a quarter of an hour to break through the city gate. The Demon Wolf Army swarmed in and began a life-and-death battle with the exhausted Southern Summer Border Army. The frontline fortress still had close to 400,000 soldiers, having a large advantage in terms of numbers. However, these soldiers were very scattered and they were all very tired. At least half of their spirit energy had been consumed, so they could not gather a strong battle strength at this time. So, this battle was basically a one-sided slaughter. One Southern Summer soldier after another fell under the butcher's blade. Mountains of corpses and seas of blood, it could be called hell on earth. Dongfang Zhan gathered tens of thousands of elites in a short period of time and launched a suicidal attack on the War-Hound's cavalry. Finally they managed to kill over 3,000 demon wolf cavalry, with a casualty ratio of 10-1. To Dongfang Zhan, this was enough to make him feel proud. After all, this was a strong army that a small country could not resist. The 30,000 elites by Dongfang Zhan's side had all died, and there were only a few personal soldiers still fighting in a bloody battle. Southern Xia will never fall. Dongfang Zhan was covered in several wounds, with 4 arrows and a spear piercing his abdomen, but he still cut down 7 demon wolf cavalry, finally standing on top of a mountain of corpses. His white hair danced in the wind, and he was surrounded by demon wolf cavalry, with the Fang King riding a 3-headed demon wolf at the very front. Dongfang Zhan gave 3 wild laughs before suddenly throwing out his spear, piercing through another 2 demon wolf cavalry. But this spear was caught by a large hand. A wolf man riding a 3-headed demon wolf with a purple gold drum in his hand walked out. A pair of dark and cruel eyes stared right at Dongfang Zhan. Even in this situation, you still caused quite a bit of damage to my army. You are truly worthy of being one of the Southern Summer generals. The number 1 general in the Southern Summer country belongs to the calm martial ruler. What does this old soldier count for? Dongfang Zhan did not need to ask to know the other side's identity. If you weren't afraid of the calm martial ruler, why would you lead him away? If the calm martial ruler was in the imperial region, the result wouldn't be like this. It's too late to say anything now. You've lost, so surrender. The Fang King coldly said, Southern Xia will become a vassal of my warhound's kingdom. As long as you surrender and swear loyalty to me, you will still be a famous general of the Southern Summer country. Dongfang Zhan's spirit energy had already been used up and he could no longer fight with this kind of serious injury. He did not even bother replying to the Fang King's words and directly pulled out the sword at his waist. There was a blood glow that came out. Dongfang Zhan stood in the ruins of the fortress. His body was covered in wounds and his white hair fluttered in the wind, but he was like a giant angrily looking north. Dongfang Zhan had killed himself. The frontline fortress had completely fallen. Chapter 325. The demonic wolf cavalry hated Dongfang Zhan, who didn't fall even after dying. This fellow had killed many warhounds warriors, and even in the situation just now, he had caused 3,000-4,000 demonic wolf cavalry casualties. Tear it to pieces. The demonic wolf cavalry wanted to tear Dongfang Zhan's corpse to pieces to vent their anger. Enough, stop! The Fang King coldly shouted. The warhounds respect true warriors and a warrior needs to be treated like a warrior, even if he is our enemy. Take his corpse and preserve it. After the battle is over, we will bury him in the Southern Summer country's soil. Yes, the Fang King held the highest position in the warhounds tribe and no one dared to disobey his word. The entire battlefield was still calm and the Southern Xia frontline army was already in shambles. Tens of thousands of people had already abandoned their defenses and fled, with their defeat already being irreversible. The warhounds did not leave any prisoners. Out of the 600,000 soldiers in the Great Wall, around 400,000-500,000 had died, and the rest had already fled. The warhounds' army had lost 200,000-300,000 people, but most of them were just random soldiers. The demonic wolf cavalry's main force was still intact. First send out the pursuing troops to capture the Southern Xia soldiers. The Fang King did not want to let a single Southern Xia soldier go. Everyone else, start cleaning up the battlefield. Quickly adjust yourselves and continue the attack. The Southern Xia people had received news of victory several days ago, but they never would have thought that this kind of nightmare would happen in a single night. After the frontline fortress was broken, Imperial City no longer had any barriers. With this terrifying army marching down, they could directly launch an attack on the unprepared royal city. Imperial City's 200,000 cavalry had been sent to Tsang State, so it was impossible for them to return in a few days. As for the remaining 500,000 soldiers in Imperial City, Although there were over 1,000 Griffin Knights and the elites of the three great families, if they were to face the sudden attack of the Warhound's army, it would be hard for them to resist. The Fang King sent out several thousand soldiers to chase after them and then began to organize the army. This battle had consumed quite a bit of energy, so they could not directly attack Imperial City for now. But there was enough time. Nothing could change in these 2 days. The calm martial ruler and the 200,000 cavalry would not return, so the Fang King was not afraid of the southern summer country launching a sneak attack. In 5 days or 10 days, once the Fang King attacked Imperial City, it would be useless even if the calm martial ruler and the 400,000 cavalry from Song State returned. Big brother! Malum jumped over the ruins with Wang Tianlong, landing in front of the Fang King like two phantoms. Malum's armor was broken and he seemed to be heavily injured. Malum, your performance really disappoints me. The Fang King seemed to be filled with anger. I told you to attack the stronghold from the inside, but you didn't complete this task. Because of your failure, the Warhound's army has lost at least 100,000 soldiers and even lost 3,000 demon wolf cavalry. Malum had a look of shame. The Southern Summer King tried to take me down with him before he died. Although I was lucky enough to escape, I was still quite injured. Because I was recovering, I couldn't finish the mission in time, so I asked Big Brother to punish me. The Fang King frowned. I don't need a reason, I want results. Since you failed the mission, you should be punished. Malum steeled his heart and pulled out the black blade, chopping down on his left arm. Wang Tianlong turned pale with fright. Just one mistake, and he had to break his arm as punishment? Dang. A golden drum blocked the black blade. The Fang King coldly said, You killing the Southern Summer King is considered a great merit, so this mistake will be recorded. The battle is not over yet and your left arm is still useful, so it won't be too late to cut it off after the battle. Yes. Where is Chu Tian? Why don't we see his corpse? Wang Tianlong said, This person can fight against 1,000,000 soldiers. If we let him go, there will be endless troubles in the future. The Fang King knit his brows. What do you mean? Malum explained, This is a human youth. Although he doesn't have any fame, he seems to have an extraordinary strength. Since it's like this, I'll give you a chance to atone for your crimes. The Fang King whistled and a giant blue bird appeared above everyone. This is a thunder eagle beast. Its speed is twice that of a human griffin. You will ride this beast and chase after him. Even if you can't catch him, you can't let him live. Yes. Malum waved his hand at Wang Tianlong and the people beside him. You all come with me. Malum rode the Thunder Eagle beast and the others rode vultures. They set off from the frontline fortress and began to chase after Chu Tian's group. These flying demon beasts were very fast and the warhounds were good at tracking, so it was easy to find their aura, so it was not hard to catch up to them. Malum felt the other side's aura after chasing for an hour, but the other side seemed to have sensed that they were being chased. The group suddenly scattered and went in different directions. Their auras are scattered, we should also scatter. Malum ordered the others. I'll go catch Chu Tian and you chase the rest. Understood. Malum and the others spread out in pursuit. Several minutes ago, Chu Tian, Gu Qianxiu, Meng Qingwu, and several dozen Griffin Knights were heading in the direction of Imperial City. The frontline fortress had suffered a crushing defeat in southern Xia, but Imperial City had not fallen yet, so there was still hope for a comeback. The little fox had been observing the divine eye for a while, but it suddenly anxiously gestured to Chu Tian. We're in trouble. The war hounds have sent at least several thousand pursuers, and there are several that have already caught up to us. Chu Tian said to the others, They are very fast and we are too big of a target, it will be hard for us to escape. We can only split up and try our luck like this. In short, we have to report back to Imperial City as soon as possible. Gu Qianxiu said through gritted teeth. They could only do this. I'll be in a group with the young miss, you guys take care. Gu Qianxiu was heavily injured, so even if he followed Chu Tian, he might not be able to protect him. It was better to split up and make it hard for the war hounds to lock onto him. Scatter! Everyone scattered at the same time. They all began to scatter by themselves. Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu moved together. After all, the two of them were riding on a griffin. Meng Qingwu's cultivation was not high and Chu Tian had overdrawn his strength, so they could take care of each other. In the end, the two of them didn't go far. "GG!" the little fox anxiously called out. It was warning Chu Tian that the first group of pursuers had already locked onto the two of them. Meng Qingwu found a large black dot in the sky, which was a group of war hounds riding vultures. There were many of them, around 20 of them, and they were all elites of the war hounds tribe, with most of them being illustrious Soul Realm experts. This was the first group of pursuers sent by the Fong King. They had locked onto Chu Tian earlier than Malam, so they met first. Meng Qingwu's heart sank. The war hounds tribe had caught up. The war hounds tribe leader loudly shouted, "Kill them! It's just a few small fish, young miss, there's no need to panic." Chu Tian endured the tearing pain of his body and took out a source energy submachine gun from his gourd. He put in a normal magazine and took out the netherworld sword from his back. "Stand behind me. It will be very bumpy later, so you have to hold on tight." Meng Qingwu's heart was filled with bitterness. This fellow was clearly an arrow at the end of its flight, but he still wanted to protect her. Meng Qingwu was facing this life and death situation, but she couldn't do anything. She felt very uneasy and guilty in her heart. "Young miss, we are grasshoppers on the same rope, so you don't need to think too much. You and I are destined to cross this calamity together, so no one should think about leaving first. But to be honest, I am very honored." Meng Qingwu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At this time, "What are you honored for?" "Because although I wasn't born on the same day as the young miss, I could die on the same day as the young miss. Look, our fates are linked together, this is truly a match made in heaven. Pei, who wants to die together with you?" Chu Tian really, he was still in the mood to joke around at this time. But being like this by Chu Tian, Meng Qingwu felt the uneasiness in her heart lessen by a lot. "They're here." The war hounds' air cavalry quickly charged forward, and the war hounds' soldiers began to shoot arrows. A large wave of arrows rained down on the two of them, and there were just too many of them. It was not hard for Chu Tian to protect himself, and he could protect the young miss, but the problem was that most of the arrows were aimed at the griffin. The griffin was this big, so how could it defend every position? Chu Tian used his divine sense to lock onto the arrows and used the netherworld sword to send out sword chi to cut down the arrows, accurately protecting the griffin. Once the griffin was killed, the two of them would not have a means of transportation. When would they be able to reach Imperial City? Chu Tian did not have any spirit energy, and now he had to protect the mount with all these war hounds experts. He was stretched thin. The war hounds' air cavalry captain found a flaw, and while Chu Tian was busy protecting the griffin, he suddenly drew his bow and shot an incomparably strong arrow at Chu Tian's heart. This is bad. Chu Tian's divine sense could see this attack, but this person's archery skills were very high. Chu Tian could not attend to this, and if he dodged the arrow, the griffin would be killed. If he did not dodge the arrow, this arrow would be very dangerous. It was at this critical moment. Meng Qingwu suddenly jumped out and blocked the arrow for Chu Tian. That arrow filled with spirit energy fell onto Meng Qingwu's right leg and the wild energy pierced through the starlight immortal body, deeply stabbing into Meng Qingwu's thigh. Meng Qingwu's eyes turned black, and she almost fell off the griffin's back. "Young miss!" Chu Tian quickly grabbed Meng Qingwu. Meng Qingwu loudly shouted, "Be careful!" The war hound's commander took this chance to charge forward with his spear. That spear glow was filled with spirit energy, so this person was at least a peak 6th awakened soul layer expert. If it was a fair fight, Chu Tian would not have placed him in his eyes, but he did not have the strength to do so. But that did not mean that Chu Tian was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Chu Tian raised the submachine gun in his left hand and pulled the trigger, releasing a large amount of light bullets into the sky. The war hounds had never seen source energy weapons before, and the several light bullets all hit their target. Some hit the vultures and some hit the war hounds' experts, but the high temperature was enough to melt steel. The vultures were instantly fatally injured, and the war hound's captain gave a pitiful cry as he fell off his mount. Chu Tian shot at the other war hounds pursuing him. With several pitiful cries, another 2 vultures fell from several hundred meters in the air. Several war hound soldiers put down their bows and pulled out their close combat weapons to surround him without any fear of death. Chu Tian's source energy submachine gun had run out of energy and he did not have time to reload, so he could only send out a sword chi to push back 2 of them. The other one had already approached the griffin and stabbed his spear into the griffin's abdomen, creating a terrifying wound. Ayo! The griffin gave a pitiful cry as it lost its balance. Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu were almost thrown out. Damn! Meng Qingwu took Chu Tian's submachine gun and reloaded it. That terrifying source energy bullet easily shattered their armor and instantly melted several war hounds' soldiers with large holes. Young miss, good shot. There were still several dozen war hounds' airborne cavalry, but there were too many of them. With their close range and long-range attacks, not to mention that Chu Tian's strength was greatly reduced, even in a normal situation, it would be hard for him to gain an advantage in this kind of aerial battle. So, a blade quickly slashed at the griffin's neck. The injured griffin finally could not hold on any longer, and its body suddenly flipped over, falling down from the sky. This is bad. The 2 of them were thrown into the air and instantly lost their center of gravity, falling down at the same time. After losing their mounts, the 2 of them could not move in the air. The war hounds' airborne cavalry charged forward, attempting to tear the 2 of them apart. Chapter 326. Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu were over 300–400 meters in the air, falling down in a free fall. Their ears were filled with the sound of wind, and the ground was getting closer and closer. Falling from this height, even if one had a body as hard as steel, their internal organs would still be damaged. What was even more dangerous was that the war hound's soldiers riding on the vultures did not plan on letting them go. So when the 2 of them fell, the vultures surrounded them and tried to tear them apart with their sharp claws. Scram! Chu Tian's sword chi cut open the belly of a vulture, and large amounts of blood and internal organs were released. Chu Tian suddenly heard Meng Qingwu's cry of shock, and when he turned around, Meng Qingwu had already been caught by a vulture. The vulture had actually stabbed its spear at Meng Qingwu's body, but it was a good thing that this vulture soldier's cultivation was not high and its spear could not pierce through Meng Qingwu's starlight barrier. Meng Qingwu grabbed the spear and threw the soldier down. Chu Tian had no choice but to throw the netherworld sword and grab it in his hand. The treasure sword turned into a stream of light as it pierced through the vulture's body. The vulture gave a pitiful cry as it was killed. The netherworld sword released energy and the blue and white flame crows flew into the air. Even the vultures and the riders were ignited by the terrifying abyss netherworld flame. This huge ball of flame then transformed into a humanoid figure. It was impressively the image of a demon. Netherworld. Kill them. Yes, master. The demon Netherworld was an elemental being. It could fly even without wings. It was like a meteor as it charged at the vulture riders. There were 6–7 blooming flames in the sky. Chu Tian held the netherworld sword that had lost its spirit and fell down with Meng Qingwu. Putong! Putong! 2 large sounds came from a lake that was as flat as a mirror on the prairie. The 2 of them almost instantly sank to the bottom of the water. If they were ordinary people, their internal organs would have been shattered and they would have died. Chu Tian came into close contact with a rock at the bottom of the lake. The rock was smashed into pieces, but Chu Tian's head was fine. However, He felt a wave of dizziness. He quickly calmed himself down, kicked the bottom of the lake, and quickly floated up. He saw Meng Qingwu struggling in front of him. The young mistress did not seem to be very good at swimming. Moreover, there was an arrow wound on her thigh, so she could not move for a while. Chu Tian quickly swam over and wrapped his arms around Meng Qingwu's waist. The two of them emerged from the water together. Phew! Meng Qingwu and Chu Tian gasped for breath. Meng Qingwu quickly asked with concern, "Are you okay?" "My life is very tough. Of course I'm fine. How is eldest miss? Are your injuries heavy?" In order to express his concern, Chu Tian used his hands to examine the young miss's body. When he finally touched her thigh, he used his spirit energy to break the arrow. "We need to go ashore to take care of the wound." Meng Qingwu had been taken advantage of by Chu Tian, but she was too lazy to say anything at this moment. The little fox swam over from the water and brought the netherworld sword in its mouth to Chu Tian. Chu Tian held the netherworld sword and thanked the little fox. The demon netherworld was still fighting with the war hounds in the sky. Although the battle would not end in a while, it could stop the vulture cavalry from attacking the two of them, so it was the best time for the two of them to go ashore. Chu Tian held the young Miss' soft body and held the netherworld sword in his other hand. He controlled the spirit energy in his body and suddenly kicked off in the water. It was like he had hit an engine, and he quickly swam to the shore. The little fox suddenly gave a warning. There was a large amount of dead wood floating on the surface of the small lake. When one looked carefully, they were shocked to find that these were not dead wood, they were clearly giant alligators that were over 5 meters long. A small part of their bodies floated on the surface, so it looked like several dozen pieces of dead wood. Damn, these are blue-patterned alligators! These alligators were high-level 1 water-attributed demon beasts. They could display some water-attributed abilities and had the strength of an 8th to 9th body refinement layer cultivator. In his normal state, Chu Tian would not care about them, but the current Chu Tian was not only very weak, his spirit energy was almost used up and he did not have the strength to fight anymore. There were many alligators, there were at least over 100 of them. At this moment, it was enough to pose a fatal threat to the two of them. Meng Qingwu said in a panic, "What do we do? What can we do? Run." The two who had fallen into the water had clearly invaded the territory of these highly territorial magical beasts. Moreover, it seemed that these fellows did not have a good temper. At this moment, they were rapidly surging towards the 2 humans and 1 beast. Dark blue runes lit up on the skin of each of the crocodiles as they instilled power into the surrounding lake water from their bodies. The entire lake seemed to be boiling in an instant. Chu Tian could feel a strong water-attributed energy that wrapped around him like a giant python. The alligators wanted to bind him and make him lose his ability to resist before tearing him apart. Chu Tian's long sword swept out with a fierce sword chi, instantly breaking through the surrounding binding energy. It also cut the 2 alligators in half. Other than angering the demon beasts even more, it did not have any effect on their current situation. "This is bad, there are too many demon beasts in the water," Meng Qingwu anxiously shouted. "If you bring me along, you won't be able to leave. Don't worry about me, just leave." Meng Qingwu was in the peak 5th awakened soul layer. This kind of strength was not weak. At least in the southern Xia army, she could be a high-level general. But Meng Qingwu did not have a battle-type source spirit, so she was not suited for most battle cultivation techniques and martial arts. In other words, other than the defensive Starlight Immortal Body cultivation technique, she did not have any other skills. Meng Qingwu's battle strength was very weak. Especially in this kind of situation, she could only drag them down. If Chu Tian brought Meng Qingwu, their chances of escaping would be even smaller. "You want to stop me with just these few beasts?" Chu Tian released his spirit energy and suddenly moved forward. He felt 1,000 gene of resistance with every inch he moved forward. After cutting down several more alligators, he continued to bring Meng Qingwu forward. The water around them began to churn even more violently as the giant alligators charged at the two of them. "Young miss, take this." Chu Tian gave the source energy submachine gun to Meng Qingwu. He and Meng Qingwu were hugging each other and Chu Tian was responsible for sweeping the front. "You cover my back." At this time, several giant crocodiles attacked Chu Tian from behind. The young miss quickly grabbed the gun and pulled the trigger. A stream of light bullets shot out and instantly created a large amount of steam on the surface of the lake. The giant crocodile's incomparably tough skin was instantly burned with a large hole and their bodies were pierced through. Too good. With the source energy submachine gun in hand, these giant alligators would not be able to get close. Meng Qingwu seemed like she had found her value and immediately fired at the surrounding giant alligators. When these high-temperature energy bullets passed through the lake, they created large amounts of steam that finally landed on the giant alligators. The source energy submachine gun's high firing speed and killing power was displayed at this time. The two of them finally escaped danger and slowly swam towards the shore. "I don't have any bullets, quickly give me a magazine." "Fuck, can't you use it sparingly?" "I don't have any left." Meng Qingwu was shocked. "Then what do we do?" Chu Tian took out a source energy pistol and gave it to her. "We only have this left, so we'll just have to make do with it." This pistol's firing speed was too slow and there were too many demon beasts. How could they kill them all? But now that things had reached this point, they could only do this. It was a good thing that Chu Tian's weapons had been specially modified. This source energy pistol's energy bullets were enough to easily pierce through an illustrious soul realm cultivator's protective spirit energy. A single shot was enough to kill one. Only as more and more crocodiles were killed, these demon beasts became more and more angry. They became even more hysterical as they attacked the two of them. Chu Tian didn't have much spirit energy left and now he was on the verge of exhaustion. Even the Starlight Immortal Body couldn't support it anymore. Once the Starlight Immortal Body was broken, then Chu Tian would die without a doubt. These demon beasts could easily crush a human's weak body. I really can't move." Finally, the spirit energy in Chu Tian's body was almost completely used up. He was at least 200 meters away from the other side of the river. This was not a problem for an awakened soul cultivator, but for Chu Tian, it was the distance between life and death. "Young miss, we might not be able to swim up." Chu Tian had a tired expression. "Are you afraid?" Meng Qingwu looked at Chu Tian's pale face and suddenly had a very moved feeling. This fellow was usually carefree, but in this critical moment, he was protecting her with his life, not giving up until the last moment. "If you're not afraid, then what would I be afraid of? At worst we'll just die together." "Young miss, please take this and hold it tightly." Chu Tian placed a sword sheath into Meng Qingwu's hand. Without waiting for her to speak, he took the initiative to ask, "I actually have a question I want to ask you." Meng Qingwu had a stunned expression as she said, "What do you want to ask?" Chu Tian seriously said, "Ying once told me that the man the young miss likes has to be an indomitable hero or a great sage that saves the country. Do you think I'm that kind of person?" "What meaning is there in asking this?" "Of course there is a meaning. Quickly tell me, let me be a ghost that understands." Alright. You are, that's fine. But there's no chance, we're all going to die." Chu Tian revealed a satisfied smile. He suddenly thrust the netherworld sword forward, stabbing it into the sword sheath in Meng Qingwu's hand. He pushed the rest of his spirit energy in and the energy exploded in the water. That strong force directly pushed Meng Qingwu's body. No. Meng Qingwu was pushed by the netherworld sword and flew into the air, landing on the shore. She watched as Chu Tian used the last of his strength and slowly sank into the water in exhaustion. The surrounding giant alligators surrounded him, launching a final wave of attacks. Chu Tian! I don't belong to this place. I should be satisfied after playing for this long. Chu Tian raised his right hand to make a victory sign. You sisters should live on. When Chu Tian sank into the water, countless alligators wildly charged forward. There was only a splash of water. It was clear they were being attacked by a group of alligators. No. Quickly come out. Meng Qingwu powerlessly kneeled on the ground. She did not have the joy of surviving, rather she was filled with deep guilt and pain. Chapter 327. When the crocodiles were about to tear Chu Tian to pieces, a ripple appeared in the lake, and a strong pressure covered the surface of the lake. The giant crocodiles were filled with incomparable fear. It was like a powerful ancient demon beast had appeared, and its aura was even more shocking than a dragon's aura. A snow-white figure emerged from the lake. It was a full 10 to 30 feet tall, and its entire body was spotless. Its snow-white fur was as smooth as silk, and it was as translucent as white jade. Its eyes were dark green like top-gray jadeite. This was a two-tailed white demon fox. When the giant crocodiles felt the white fox's aura, they all ran away in panic. The demon fox's green eyes suddenly lit up and an invisible spiritual energy spread in all directions. Almost in an instant, hundreds of giant crocodiles stopped moving. Their bodies froze for a few seconds, and then their eyes lit up with a strange green light. All of them turned into marionettes and pounced on each other and began to bite each other. Meng Qingwu watched in disbelief as over 100 giant crocodiles killed each other. Blood dyed the surface of the lake red. That white demon fox sank to the bottom of the lake and picked up Chu Tian before quickly jumping onto the shore. It shook off the water droplets on its fur, and then its body quickly shrank. From a majestic two-tailed demon fox, it turned back into a cute little fox. The little fox gave a sneeze. Its two eyes revealed a look of exhaustion. It was a good thing he awakened his transformation ability at this critical moment, otherwise his master would have failed miserably this time. Little fox, good job. Meng Qingwu threw herself at Chu Tian and her hands kept slapping his face. How are you? Wake up. Quickly wake up for me. Chu Tian's eyelids felt as heavy as lead. There was a warm and soft hand patting his face, and at the same time, a familiar voice called out to him. It was sometimes far away and sometimes right in front of him. Was it the young miss? So he wasn't dead yet. Meng Qingwu saw Chu Tian's eyelids move slightly. He finally reacted. She was relieved. I knew that a scourge like you wouldn't die so easily. Meng Qingwu leaned over and grabbed his shoulder and shook it hard. Irresponsible bastard, do you think I will thank you for doing this? How do you want me to go back and face Yingying? You made me suffer and feel guilty for the rest of my life. I will hate you for the rest of my life. Get up. Meng Qingwu's mood was very complicated. She was happy and sad, angry and touched. This guy liked to play the hero, but had he ever thought about her feelings? Did he think about Yingying again? No matter what, he couldn't die, he couldn't die. Miracle Commerce needed him, Yingying needed him, Meng Qingwu also needed him. Alright, stop swaying. Even if I'm not bitten to death by the magical beasts, I'll still die from your swaying. Chu Tian weakly said. When he slowly opened his eyes and saw Meng Qingwu, he suddenly opened his eyes wide. Big, big, big. What big? Don't tell me you've become stupid. Meng Qingwu saw two eyes staring at her, so she looked over at Chu Tian's eyes in a puzzled manner. Meng Qingwu's eyes suddenly froze and her face turned red. At this moment, Meng Qingwu's two slender legs were spread apart and she was in a very ambiguous position, leaning over Chu Tian's body. Her face was not even a centimeter away from Chu Tian. In this position, according to the laws of gravity, the two magnificent peaks on Meng Qingwu's chest were very prominent. Looking down from her collar, one could see everything. A drop of water fell down from Meng Qingwu's slender white neck, flowing down to her snow-white peaks before finally falling into a bottomless ravine. Several strands of black hair fell down, contrasting against her milky white skin. Meng Qingwu was startled and wanted to stand up, but she used too much force and felt a splitting pain in her right leg. Probably because it affected her wound, Meng Qingwu fell back down again. Chu Tian felt as if two towering mountains were pressing down on his chest, almost forcing his soul out. Two soft and fragrant lips were right on his mouth. Little Fox immediately covered her eyes. Meng Qingwu's beautiful eyes widened, and Chu Tian's face was full of disbelief. Damn my chastity. No way, I didn't know that this miss was such a fierce woman. Just because I saved her life, she took the initiative to give me a kiss and hug. Is she going to repay me with her body? If I don't respond to Miss's behavior, I wouldn't be a man. Chu Tian took the opportunity to hug Miss and give her a fierce bite. Meng Qingwu's mind instantly went blank. She subconsciously didn't resist, or perhaps there was an unspeakable excitement and anticipation in her heart. Miss, you're too despicable. You actually took advantage of me when I was weak and used this kind of forceful method to steal my first kiss. Chu Tian looked at Miss in horror, like an innocent girl who had been violated by a sex fiend. Meng Qingwu came back to her senses. When she saw Chu Tian's reaction, she almost fainted. It was obviously you, Missy, let's be reasonable, okay? I can't even move now. You were the one who hugged me and kissed me. Are you going to be irresponsible and accuse me instead? I didn't. Pay. Meng Qingwu felt that these words were inappropriate. Even the normally calm and steady her was flustered at this moment. Don't speak nonsense. Chu Tian confidently said, I don't care that much. Since I've done it, I have to admit it. Although your temper is a bit fierce, since it's like this, I can only accept my bad luck. I'll just accept you. I'm ignoring you. Meng Qingwu was so angry that she didn't care about her leg injury as she limped away. She didn't even take a few steps before she fell down again. Chu Tian saw that the young Miss' injury was not light, so he stopped teasing her. He picked up the netherworld sword on the side and gently slashed at the sky. A blue light fell onto the blade and the weapon's spirit returned to the weapon. Those vultures had all been killed. Chu Tian sheathed the sword and immediately went to support the young miss. Let me see your injury. No. This was not up to you. Chu Tian directly supported her to sit on the ground. Although Meng Qingwu's mouth was protesting, her body did not resist at all. Chu Tian tore open his pants, revealing a snow-white thigh. There was a dark red wound in the middle, but Meng Qingwu had already used her spirit energy to seal the blood vessels, so there was no blood loss. It really is a poison arrow. Chu Tian gently pressed down on the young miss' injury. The poison has entered the bone. If we use Southern Xia's treatment methods, you won't be able to keep your leg. Meng Qingwu's body trembled in fright. Was it really that serious? Chu Tian gave a laugh. But you don't need to worry. This poison is completely different from the one used on the Southern Summer King. As long as the poison is controlled, I have a way to treat it and there won't be any side effect. While they were talking, Chu Tian took out a level 2 deciphering pill that he had personally refined and poured it into his mouth. The pill melted in his mouth and Chu Tian spat it onto the wound. Then he gently massaged the surrounding area, letting the medicinal liquid seep into the wound. Meng Qingwu could clearly feel that the pain was gradually decreasing. When she saw Chu Tian meticulously treating her, her expression eased up a bit. Chu Tian bandaged Meng Qingwu's wound, and without even asking for her opinion, he directly carried Meng Qingwu on his back. Meng Qingwu was a bit panicked. What are you doing? You can't walk for now with this leg injury. Chu Tian carried Meng Qingwu to the south. The Warhounds tribe must still have pursuers. If we are caught by another wave, we will be dead for sure. We need to hurry to a safe place. Meng Qingwu was a bit resistant. She had never been this intimate with a man before, other than the accident that just happened. But Meng Qingwu was not an unreasonable person. After hesitating for a few seconds, she stretched out her arms and wrapped them around Chu Tian's neck. She closed her eyes and allowed this fellow to carry her forward. Feeling the young Miss' body like this was a very wonderful thing. However, Chu Tian's current condition was very bad. There was no place on his body that wasn't in pain, and he was not in the mood to enjoy his luck with women. Meng Qingwu was quietly lying on Chu Tian's body. The two of them did not say a word at this time, but Meng Qingwu could clearly feel Chu Tian's weak pulse and his increasingly rapid breathing. He must have reached his limit and was only forcefully holding on with his shocking willpower. Meng Qingwu's heart was sour, not feeling good at all. Chu Tian was in this kind of condition, but he still acted like nothing was wrong. He was even deliberately angering her, but it was most likely to divert her attention. Chu Tian, let me ask you. Meng Qingwu asked in Chu Tian's ear, between me and Yingying, who do you think is better? Chu Tian felt the young Miss' breath on his ear, making him feel very comfortable. However, this question made Chu Tian choke quite a bit. That unprecedented tone made Chu Tian's heart tremble. Why are you asking this question? You sisters are not the same type, how can I compare? Then I'll change the method. If, between me and Yingying, you could choose one to marry as your wife, who would you choose? Chu Tian could clearly feel that when the young miss asked this question, her heart was beating faster. What kind of question was this? Could it be a hint? He really couldn't be careless. Can't I marry both? Io, why are you pinching me? Meng Qingwu fiercely said, you can only choose one. The young miss question was too tricky. Chu Tian had the best relationship with Yingying, this was something the young miss couldn't compare to. But if he chose Yingying in front of the young miss, wouldn't that hurt the young miss' heart? Women were very complicated creatures, no matter how contradictory they were, deep in their hearts, they would want to choose her. But if he chose the young miss, wouldn't he be letting down Yingying? The young miss loved her little sister so much, she would most likely express her opinion. This question was really hard for people to decide. Meng Qingwu said with a disdainful smile, is this question that hard to answer? You men really are eating from the bowl while looking at the pot? I'm wronged. I haven't eaten yet. At most I'm looking at the pot and staring at the food that hasn't entered the pot yet. You! All right, I know the young miss wants to make it hard for me. Chu Tian scratched his head. If I have to give an answer, then I'll choose the young miss. Meng Qingwu's body slightly trembled. She was satisfied with this answer, but also dissatisfied. She kicked Chu Tian and said with a snort, why? Isn't Yingying good enough? This wife needs to share a lot of work. Yingying is so stupid, how could she help me manage the company? So the young miss is the most suitable. As for Yingying, you only said she could have one wife. You didn't say she couldn't have a concubine. Anyways, that girl doesn't care about status, right? You have no conscience. I'll kick you to death. Alright, then I'll choose Yingying. I don't want a fierce wife. Io, why are you kicking me again? Then I don't want either of them. Wah, you're still kicking me, what do you want me to do? Meng Qingwu felt a bit embarrassed, she seemed to have overreacted. The two of them were silent for a while. If me and Yingying end up benefiting you, will you find another woman? What do you mean? Forgive my stupidity, I don't understand. Don't pretend you don't understand. Nangong, Kaidai Yunyao. Even Big Sister Bing, they are all 1 in 10,000 outstanding women. Do you dare pat your chest and guarantee you won't harm them? I don't believe you can say this kind of thing. To be honest, I really don't have any thoughts. Chu Tian shrugged his shoulders. But since the young miss has no confidence in me, you won't believe me no matter what I say. Since it's like this, I might as well admit that I'm a person of universal love. It's also good to plan ahead. Fickle big radish, I'll kick you to death. Chu Tian finally saw it. The young miss was normally a sensible person, but when she made a scene, she was even worse than Nangong Yun. It really made people look at her in a new light. Anyways, on the way here, Chu Tian's butt was almost swollen from being kicked. But playing with the young Miss, Chu Tian felt much more relaxed. Chapter 328. The two of them walked noisily until dusk. The prairie at night was filled with danger and the two of them were injured. For safety's sake, they found a safe little forest to rest in. Chu Tian swallowed a few more pills and began to heal his injuries. As expected, he was in a terrible state. Because he had overused his strength, he had damaged many of his meridians, and because he had overdrawn his strength during the battle, his vitality had been damaged. This was the most serious injury Chu Tian had suffered since he arrived in this era. He wouldn't be able to recover even after 10-15 days. The most troublesome thing was that if it wasn't treated in time, there would be repercussions that would cause irreparable damage to his body. Meng Qingwu placed a heated can in front of Chu Tian. "Eat it." This was made from level 2 demon beast meat. When an awakened soul cultivator's body was weak, they only needed to eat this can to recover most of their strength. Meng Qingwu looked around. "Where's the little fox?" "It's cleaning up the aura we left behind." Chu Tian ate the can in 2-3 bites and the healing pill began to show its effects, making his body feel a bit more comfortable. The war hounds are made up of wolf tribe spirit beasts, and the wolf tribe is famous for being good at tracking. If it wasn't for the little fox cleaning up the aura, we would have been attacked many times already. Meng Qingwu was very curious about the little fox's origin. This little fellow is not simple, it has a strong potential and strength. When I saw it transform today, its aura was very familiar to me. It was very similar to an ancient great desolate demonic beast. Great desolate demonic beast? Chu Tian knew the young Miss abilities. The heavenly book source spirit contained a large amount of knowledge and memories, so as long as it was stimulated, it would awaken. Even Chu Tian didn't know about the little fox's origin, so how could Meng Qingwu know? Demonic beasts and demon beasts sounded similar, but there was actually a large difference. Most demonic beasts had high intelligence and were good at using strange demonic technique. This was very similar to the little fox's abilities, so it was very possible that the little fox was a demonic beast. Chu Tian asked, "How much do you know?" "Not too much. The inherited memories in my source spirit don't have much information on this." Meng Qingwu pondered for a few minutes and said, "Legend has it that in the early days of the primordial chaos, there was a kind of primordial demon race that coexisted with gods and demons. Among these demon race leaders, there was a most famous and powerful existence. It was unpredictable and unpredictable, but its original body was a 9-tailed demon fox." 9-tailed demon fox? Chu Tian remembered what happened in the Central State Trial Tower. Could the little fox be the descendant of that great ancient demon? If it was a descendant of the demon race, then it could be explained why the little fox could use so many strange demonic techniques. Meng Qingwu shook her head. "I can't be sure, but the little fox's background is definitely not that simple." Chu Tian was deep in thought. The little fox's body was a 9-tailed fox monster and Chu Tian's source spirit was the 9-eyed demon god. What was the relationship between the two? Was it a coincidence that they met? 9 was the extreme number, it represented supremacy. Chu Tian shook his head and did not think too much about it. No matter what the little fox's background was, it was still an infant at most and did not have any strength. The great ancient demon beasts had an incomparably long lifespan, and it would take tens of thousands of years to reach adulthood. How could a human raise it with their short lifespan? Perhaps Chu Tian pursuing the path of immortality was the only way out. In the silent night, the darkness stretched as far as the eye could see. The cold of the midnight and the sense of danger was like an invisible hand that shrouded the two of them at all times. Meng Qingwu was worried about the war hounds, but she was even more afraid of the demon beasts hunting on the prairies, so she did not dare sleep. At this time, a hand patted Meng Qingwu's shoulder. "Don't worry, the little fox is nearby. If anything approaches, it will not be able to escape the little fox's vigilance, so you can rest in peace." Meng Qingwu was indeed very tired. She gently leaned against Chu Tian's shoulder and closed her eyes to fall asleep. Chu Tian continued to heal his injuries. Actually, this could be considered a blessing in disguise. Chu Tian had gone beyond his limits, and although it was a large injury to his body, it had stimulated his potential. If his injuries could be healed this time, Chu Tian's cultivation would increase by a large amount, and it would not be impossible for him to step into the true soul realm. When there was a glimmer of light in the eastern sky, Chu Tian came out of his meditative state. After taking a few saint pills with him, although they couldn't completely repair his injuries, they were able to greatly alleviate them. At the very least, his overdrawn spirit energy would recover a bit and he would be able to fight, no longer needing to worry about the demon beasts of the prairie. Meng Qingwu was leaning against his shoulder, breathing evenly, already dead asleep. He gently pushed Meng Qingwu. Young miss, it's almost dawn, wake up." At this moment, Meng Qingwu's entire body was leaning against Chu Tian's body, and her two hands were tightly holding onto Chu Tian's arm. Her beautiful face was covered in dirt, but it did not lose any of its charm and instead became even more charming. The young Miss Beauty could be described as 360 degrees without any blind spot. "Ah!" Meng Qingwu woke up with a start, feeling a little embarrassed. She originally wanted to rest for a while, but just by leaning on Chu Tian's body, his aura made her feel peaceful, and she actually unknowingly fell asleep. What was going on? Meng Qingwu couldn't help but have goosebumps. She had always been an independent and sharp person since she was young. Furthermore, Meng Qingwu's vigilance was very heavy. Other than her younger sister, she would always have a trace of basic vigilance in her heart. Even if she was sleeping at home, it was impossible for her to sleep so deeply. Could it be that deep in her heart, she already had a deep trust in the fellow in front of her? This feeling made Meng Qingwu feel a bit conflicted and confused, not knowing what to do. "Let's quickly leave." Chu Tian did not pay attention to the young Miss' complex psychological changes. When he got up, he saw Meng Qingwu sitting on the ground and said with a puzzled expression, "Young miss, what are you doing? Let's go." "I'm an injured person, how can I walk with my leg like this?" Meng Qingwu said confidently and even had a bit of a spoiled feeling. "It's not like you're carrying me. When you were sleeping, I used my spirit energy to disperse the poison in your bone. Now its healing is pretty good and your injury is basically under control. This leg can be considered saved and you can walk." Chu Tian said in a snappy manner, "You still want to kick my butt? Save it." Meng Qingwu found that her thigh had been bandaged and the pain from the wound was no longer like before. Her face instantly turned hot and she wished she could dig a hole in the ground. At the same time, she fiercely cursed Chu Tian in her heart. "This blockhead. Letting you carry me was letting you take advantage of me, but you actually refused? Angering me to death." The fox led the way as the two of them headed towards the south. After 1 or 2 life and death experiences, the young miss had opened up her heart and the two of them had become much closer. But strangely, the closer they got, the harder it was to see the young miss. This normally dignified, beautiful, cautious, and intelligent female merchant actually had a side that no one knew about. Sometimes she was bold, sometimes she was cute, and sometimes she was emotional. This woman, it was really hard to understand. The facts proved that the adjustment last night was correct. The two of them had recovered quite well, so their speed had increased. After several hours of rushing, they were less than 500 miles away from Imperial City. This place was already within Imperial City's sphere of influence, so it was relatively safe. Those pursuers riding vultures should not be able to catch up. Chu Tian looked into the distance. There are Imperial City patrols nearby or Imperial City's scouts. As long as we can find someone, we can get a fast horse or a beast carriage. Then it will be much easier. The young miss gave a sigh. "I hope so." This kind of high-speed movement consumed spirit energy and physical strength. Physical strength was very precious right now, so it was best to save as much as possible. It was best to have a fast horse. But when the two of them were about to let out a sigh of relief, the little fox suddenly cried out in alarm, "Gee, gee!" A loud sound came from the sky, just like a thunderclap. There was nothing in the sky before, but now there was a giant blue hawk. It was around 20 feet long and 40 feet wide. Each feather seemed like it was carved from blue crystals, and there were arcs of lightning around it. This was clearly a very strong demon beast. "Be careful!" Chu Tian suddenly jumped onto Meng Qingwu beside him. A bolt of lightning flashed across the ground, creating a giant scorch mark. When the two of them felt this power, their hearts filled with fear. This Thunderhawk's strength was at least in the peak ninth awakened soul layer. The little fox bared its teeth, and its originally black eyes suddenly turned a demonic green. Its small body suddenly swelled, and it instantly turned into a 20-foot-tall demonic fox. After the little fox transformed, the demonic green light in its eyes became even stronger. The Thunder Hawk in the sky gave a painful cry, and a green light appeared in the depths of the hawk's eyes. The green light quickly expanded and finally covered the entire pupil. Gee! The Thunder Eagle beast let out a sharp cry and suddenly calmed down from its anxious state. Its thoughts had clearly been controlled by the little fox, but the Thunder Eagle beast was too strong. Although the little fox could control it, it was very hard to control its movements, so the Thunder Eagle beast seemed to be frozen. Interesting. This Thunderhawk is at least in the peak ninth awakened soul layer. To be able to control its thoughts, your spirit beast is not simple. Meng Qingwu now found that there was a spirit beast standing on the back of the Thunderhawk. This person had a tall and sturdy figure, with a simple black blade in his hand. His body was filled with a strong power that seemed like it came from the Netherworld. Nether Flame Blade Malum, the War Hounds tribe's true spirit expert. His arrival was like a messenger from Nether Prison, making people tremble in fear. Malum was not in a rush to make a move and looked at them with a ridiculing gaze. "Your aura-hiding skills are not bad, making this search for an entire night. If it wasn't for you revealing your tracks this morning, even I would not have been able to find you. Wasting this much of my time, have you thought about what price you should pay?" Chapter 329. They still couldn't escape this misfortune in the end? Now that they were about to enter Imperial City's territory, they never thought that a true spirit realm expert would personally chase after them. How could Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu resist a true spirit realm expert? The little fox was tied down by the Thunderhawk, so it couldn't help them at this moment. "Cripple your own cultivation and come with me." Malum was not in a rush. "You can suffer less this way." Chu Tian considered the situation in front of him. "I can go with you, but you have to let her go." "You can't," Meng Qingwu quickly said. "Chu Tian, you can't go with them." Chu Tian of course did not want to mix with these War Hounds fellows, but the current situation was not good for the two of them. They could only think of a way to deal with it first. At least they could keep their little lives and find a way to escape later. Prisoners of war do not have the qualifications to talk about conditions. "What if I still have a bargaining chip in my hand?" "Bargaining chip? Ha ha ha. Is it because of the power contained in your body? It can't be denied that it is very strong, but do you really have the ability to use it again?" Malum gently sniffed. "I can smell the aura coming from your blood. You are very weak, very weak. If you use it again, you will definitely die." "If I die, your mission will fail." Malum broke out in laughter again. "A prisoner of war is actually threatening the victor with suicide? Let me tell you, your life is not important at all. Even if you die today, as long as you can bring your corpse back, it will be enough. You're speaking too much nonsense. I'll kill this woman first." The black blade was ignited in flames, and a terrifying energy fluctuation created a wild wind. When it blew across the prairie, it was like a wave was being released. "Fuck! I'll stake it all with you." Chu Tian floated in the air and released a powerful fluctuation. Malum never thought that Chu Tian would actually dare to resist. Then let me see how much this power can be used. Nether flames. The black blade was ignited in flames, and when it merged with Malum's source spirit, it turned into a demon covered in black flames. It shot out at Chu Tian like a meteor. Chu Tian! Meng Qingwu shouted in panic. This was the attack of a true spirit realm expert's source spirit. This kind of attack was not something an awakened soul cultivator could withstand. Chu Tian formed a seal with his hands, and his eyes suddenly opened. 7 demonic pupils appeared in his eyes, and a huge power was added to his body, instantly turning him into a gigantic 9-eyed demon god. The evil spirit burning with black flames didn't even have time to approach. It was instantly intimidated by the pressure and dissipated in midair. Here it comes. It was this power. Malum revealed a crazed expression. How could such a weak person possess such great power? If this energy could be extracted and spewed into the space in front of Chu Tian, it would eventually form a layer of spatial fluctuations that were hard to see with the naked eye. Boom! The burning black evil ghost was directly shattered by the shockwave. Malum revealed a shocked expression. This person seemed to have many attributes of his source spirit, and he could freely switch between them. When he was in the fort, he had used his soul-attributed energy, instantly harvesting the souls of 5 peak 9th awakened soul layer experts. Other than that, he at least had the ability to use spatial energy. For example, he could teleport or use spatial fluctuations. These were all controlled from the source of space. Spatial energy, this was a legendary innate talent. Even in a giant empire, there were very few people with spatial energy. This person seemed to be able to use spatial energy. This completely subverted Malum's imagination. But so what if the other side was strong? Malum said with a cold smile. Your vitality is quickly weakening. If you keep fighting, you're dead for sure. I'll give you one last chance. Surrender to me and pledge your loyalty to the war hounds and you can live. Malum was right. Chu Tian had released the power of his main source spirit twice, which had an unimaginable effect on him. Although his body had reached the second layer of the Starlight Immortal body, his physique was still too weak. Adding in the fact that his cultivation was not high enough, he could not resist the pressure of his source spirit on his body. Chu Tian blocked Malum's attack, and all the blood vessels in his body ruptured again. Large amounts of blood came out of his pores and he couldn't stop sweating, instantly soaking his entire body. One attack. He could only make one more attack. Chu Tian was already at his limit. If he didn't care about the consequences, he would only have one more chance to attack. If he could kill Malum with this attack, the young miss would be able to return safely. If he couldn't kill Malum with this attack, the two of them would die here. Of course, even if it was the former, Chu Tian might not be able to survive. Now it all depended on luck. The 9-eyed demon god closed 8 of its eyes and only opened one eye. This eye corresponded to the faint golden pupil in Chu Tian's eye. An invisible power instantly exploded with Chu Tian as the center. What kind of attack was this? Malum did not feel any elemental energy fluctuations, but he felt a strong power that covered the world around him. He couldn't help feeling a panic that was hard to suppress because this power did not seem to have any defenses. It could pass through all energy and objects, so all defenses were useless against it. Hong. Malum felt his vision darken as the entire world collapsed. There was a power affecting his mind that stripped away all of Malum's senses and pulled him into a silent and dark space. Was this a spiritual attack? Malum could already faintly feel it. This power should be spiritual energy, but it was merged with the user's consciousness. In short, this was a form of divine sense. Chu Tian's divine sense had reached the mind's lamp realm and Chu Tian's spirit energy was very weak, so he could not handle other kinds of energy. So, using a divine sense attack was the safest method for Chu Tian, and it was also the most suitable method for Malum to use. A divine sense attack was a spiritual attack. A spiritual attack was invisible and without a trace. Unless one had a strong divine sense, or had a source spirit or cultivation technique, any kind of defense would be useless against it. The War-Hound's tribe was a spirit beast race. The spirit beast's deep spiritual domain research was almost negligible, and Malum's source spirit was not a spiritual type. Although he didn't know what realm his divine sense had reached, it should be at the mind's eye level. Chu Tian's cultivation base could not compare to Malum's, but his divine sense surpassed Malum's. Therefore, he used a divine sense attack, using his strength to attack the enemy's weakness. Endless purgatory. Malum felt a cold and terrifying voice explode in his mind. His surroundings began to change, and he felt like he had arrived in a world of lava. Beneath his feet was lava, and there were burning red iron pillars that rose high up from the lava. A ferocious demon with the head of a bull and body of a human was covered in hot lava. He held a burning red chain in his hand as he charged at Malum with a ferocious expression. Shwa! The chains in the ox-headed demon's hands instantly shot out and bound Malum's body. The flames attached to the chains made Malum feel an indescribable pain. It was as if the flames were not only burning his body, but also his mind and soul. Scram! Malum roared out as he broke free, causing the chain to shatter. A black blade slashed out, and the Minotaur demon gave a pitiful cry before turning into flames. "You want to kill me with this kind of insignificant skill?" Before Malum's voice fell, several outlines appeared around the lava lake. They were all terrifying demons with bull heads and human bodies. These monsters slowly rose up from the lava lake, each one holding a flaming iron lock in their hands. Malum felt like he was in a trance. He felt like his body had been split in two, and there were two Malums in this space. They could even look at each other, but what was strange was that these two Malums were controlled by the same will. The Minotaur demon waved the burning chains to attack. Malum raised the black blade to cut the chains, instantly cutting apart several Minotaur demons. What Malum never thought was that his other body would be hit by the chains, and that unbearable pain instantly spread through his body and spirit. How could this be? Malum had two bodies in this space, and both bodies had their senses, but his consciousness was still the same, so the two bodies were not divided. It was like Malum's left and right hand being controlled by his consciousness. In other words, if Malum protected his left hand and his right hand was injured, Malum would still feel intense pain. Damn it! What kind of evil technique was this? Malum controlled two bodies to repel the Minotaur demons at the same time. The third wave of Minotaur demons appeared. What made Malum feel fear and despair was that the number of Minotaur demons kept increasing and Malum's bodies kept increasing. When the third wave began, there were 18 Minotaur demons and Malum's bodies had become 3. A normal person's consciousness could only control one body. Now that his consciousness was connected to 3 bodies, Malum's control over his body became very stiff, and he often made mistakes in his control. The worst part was that if any body was attacked, it would cause unimaginable pain. If all 3 bodies were attacked at the same time, Malum's consciousness would suffer 3 times the pain. Pung! The third wave of Minotaur demons was defeated. The fourth wave of Minotaur demons appeared. There were 36 of them, and Malum's bodies became 4. Malum almost lost control of his body, and could only watch as the Minotaur demons wildly attacked. The 5th wave, the 6th wave, the 7th wave. Malum's bodies became more and more numerous, and he completely lost control of his body. Each body was hit by a whip. Malum instantly felt several dozen waves of extreme pain attack him at the same time. Malum almost fainted, but in this spiritual space, he was not allowed to faint. Malum's body was still splitting, and the number of Minotaur demons in the space was still increasing. The 100th wave, the 1000th wave, the 10,000th wave. It was like Malum had tens of thousands of bodies, and each body was tied to a red pillar by the Minotaur demons. Each body was being tortured by tens of thousands of Minotaur demons. Even the smallest torture, when magnified by 10,000 times, was enough to cause a large amount of damage. Not to mention that Malum's tens of thousands of bodies were enduring unimaginable torture. All of this gathered into a torrent of pain that fiercely attacked his mind and soul. Malum's mind exploded like glass. Chapter 330. This kind of attack had never been heard of before. The endless duplication of pain, the endless creation of torture, when the unbearable mental torture was magnified by 10,000 times, then the instant impact on the spirit, this was like a monstrous wave, slamming heavily on the weak dam. The result was almost no suspense. Malum was perhaps a warrior with extremely strong willpower. Only, the mental torture was enough to collapse any warrior, not to mention multiplying it by 10,000 times. Even the strongest warrior in the world would die from a mental breakdown after receiving such a terrifying attack. Even if they survived, they would most likely become crazy. This was endless purgatory. Chu Tian's incomparably powerful divine sense attack. That pain and torture continued to attack the mental dam, causing his entire mental structure to collapse. When Malum's consciousness was about to collapse, the purgatory-like spiritual world popped like a bubble. The nine-eyed demon god's power disappeared. Chu Tian's face was pale and he was covered in sweat. Damn, just a little bit more. Malum was thrown back into the real world, and with a pitiful cry, he fell to the ground. His body twitched and his mind was heavily injured, temporarily unable to recover. His mind hadn't completely collapsed. Malum's cultivation was higher than Chu Tian's, and because of his advantage in cultivation, as well as his strong willpower, Chu Tian could not directly suppress him. He could resist a bit of the divine sense attack in the beginning, but this had consumed quite a bit of Chu Tian's strength. So the entire attack had not been fully displayed and had been forcefully interrupted, so it could not completely collapse Malum's mind. This is bad. He really did not have the strength to launch a second attack. Meng Qingwu did not know what had happened because the flow of time in the spiritual world was different from the material world. Chu Tian had tortured Malum for an entire day and night in the spiritual world, but it had only been a few seconds in the real world. It was hard for bystanders to feel the entire process. All Meng Qingwu could see was that Chu Tian had glared at Malum and Malum had been seriously injured, almost losing control of his mind. As for Chu Tian, he had collapsed to the ground. What had happened? Chu Tian fell to the ground, unable to move. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Fox, take this opportunity to finish him off." The little fox's eyes released an emerald-green glow. It used all its strength to control the Thunderhawk's mind. The Thunderhawk's beak turned blue and condensed a thin bolt of lightning. The Thunder Eagle was also resisting the little fox. The little fox gave a sharp cry and the Thunderhawk's body trembled. The little fox's divine sense completely penetrated the Thunderhawk's mind and the Thunderhawk was finally controlled by the little fox, letting out a clear cry. Damn it. Malum's entire body was trembling and he couldn't even pick up his blade. My body. I will kill you. I'm going to kill you. Now Chu Tian was unconscious. Malum had suffered a serious mental injury and it was very difficult to recover from mental injuries. The severe side effects would most likely follow him for the rest of his life, but at the very least, Malum was still alive after receiving such a fierce attack. On the other hand, Chu Tian was unable to resist because he had used too much strength. You all have to die. Malum's body trembled as he knelt down. His eyes seemed like they couldn't focus as he shook his head. His eyes were red as he gave a low roar like a wild beast as he reached out to pick up the blade on the ground. Hell nether flames! The trembling blade released a surging flame that spread indiscriminately in all directions. Malum clearly didn't have a way to accurately attack, so he could only use his true spirit realm cultivation to attack over a large area, killing everyone at once. The Thunder Eagle let out a sharp cry as it swooped down. A streak of lightning struck Malum's body and instantly sent Malum flying, heavily landing on the ground. He did not hold onto the long blade, and it flew several dozen meters away. Hong! A black fire dragon swept across the ground in an instant, creating a deep scar that was startling to the eye. Malum stood up with a roar of unwillingness. When the Thunder Hawk swooped down with its claws, he used his bare hand to block it. Half of his body was pushed into the ground, and the Thunder Hawk flapped its wings, wanting to fly away. Malum released his spirit energy with a roar, and a terrifying power locked onto the Thunder Hawk's body, slamming it into the ground. He wanted to tear the Thunder Hawk in half. The little fox was anxious. If the Thunder Hawk was killed, there really wouldn't be any other way. The little fox did not have a strong body, and its demonic techniques only had summoning and control abilities. It was only effective against demon beasts, so it had no way of dealing with Malum. At this critical moment, Meng Qingwu decisively pulled out Chu Tian's netherworld sword and quickly charged at Malum. While Malum was wildly swinging the Thunderhawk, she stabbed her sword at Malum's back. Dang! Meng Qingwu was sent flying 4-5 meters with spirit energy. She felt a sharp pain in her wrist like her joints were sprained. No. The other side was too strong. Even if he was delirious, she couldn't easily injure him. The little fox found a magazine beside Chu Tian and it immediately went to pick it up. This was a magazine filled with blood-stained steel needles. The little fox bit out the needles and swallowed them before waving its claws at Meng Qingwu. Meng Qingwu nodded. The little fox spat out several blood-stained steel needles, and each one was covered in a demonic technique. They shot at Malum at a speed close to the speed of sound. Malum was delirious right now. How could he distinguish this kind of attack? He didn't even maintain his protective spirit energy, and all the needles landed on Malum's divine sense. There were even 2 needles that directly stabbed into his eyes. Ah! Malum wildly roared as he randomly swept out with his claws, creating 5 deep claw marks in the grass. This was an attack from a true spirit realm expert, so if he was hit, he would die without a doubt. However, Malum was delirious, so it was hard for him to accurately hit Meng Qingwu. Meng Qingwu had to take this risk. She raised Chu Tian's netherworld sword and looked at Malum. There was only one chance, so she had to succeed. At this time, the netherworld sword began to glow. A faint blue and white flame covered the sword blade. Meng Qingwu was very surprised. This sword had lent its power to her, but Meng Qingwu was clearly not the netherworld sword's master. This was the difference between the netherworld sword and a normal soul-contracting weapon. A normal soul-contracting weapon's weapon spirit did not have a high ability to think, but the netherworld sword's weapon spirit already had its own consciousness. So when Meng Qingwu picked up the sword, the weapon spirit, netherworld, would decide whether or not to resist. Now that Chu Tian had fainted from his heavy injuries, Meng Qingwu had to kill the spirit beast to save her master's life. Therefore, the netherworld sword did not resist Meng Qingwu, rather it took the initiative to increase the might of this attack. Meng Qingwu took out all her spirit energy and suddenly jumped forward. The sword blade left a blue and white trail as it slashed at Malum's neck, directly cutting off Malum's head. Blood sprayed out. This War Hound's tribe's peak expert had died in the hands of the weak and innate battle talent Meng Qingwu in the end. Meng Qingwu never thought that she would have the chance to kill a true spirit realm expert. The little fox let out a sigh of relief. Its little life was finally saved. Meng Qingwu searched Malum's body a few times and found a small delicate bag. Meng Qingwu could feel a faint spatial energy in the bag, so it should be a spatial item, which was a storage bag. Although it only had 5 cubic meters of space, it was still a spatial item. Meng Qingwu didn't have time to see what was inside. She casually took Malum's black long blade and returned to Chu Tian's side. She laid down on his chest and listened. His heartbeat was slow and weak, but he shouldn't be dead. Meng Qingwu was not clear on how serious Chu Tian's injuries were, but it should not be good. Meng Qingwu carried Chu Tian on her back as she headed in the direction of Imperial City with gritted teeth. Yesterday Chu Tian carried her and today it was her turn to carry Chu Tian. The two of them were truly a pair of enemies. But Meng Qingwu did not go too far. Around several dozen kilometers away, she found a southern Xia sentry post. When Chu Tian showed his identity, the sentry captain brought out a beast carriage and personally sent the two of them back to Imperial City. Imperial City was already in chaos. The great scholar Gu Qianqiu had brought the news of the front lines falling a day earlier than Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu. Gu Qianqiu was also heavily injured when he returned to Imperial City. Because many people had personally witnessed it, the news could not be blocked at all, causing many people to panic. In just a short day, several thousand soldiers had escaped from the front lines. The news these people brought back shocked the citizens of Imperial City. The Fang King had led the War Hound's army to attack the front lines and the entire defensive line had collapsed. The Southern Summer King who was patrolling had been assassinated by the traitor Wang Tianlong. Two large pieces of bad news had arrived at the same time. The entire Imperial City was not prepared for this at all. Now that the calm martial ruler was away, the Tsang state battlefield was in a stalemate. Even if the calm martial ruler received the news, he wouldn't be able to come back in time. Even if Imperial City had 400,000 soldiers and 2,000 Griffin Knights, could they stop the War Hound's army? When the Southern Summer King fell, he appointed the calm martial ruler, Dongfang Gan, as the next king. Perhaps even the Southern Summer King did not think that the situation in Southern Xia would deteriorate to this degree. The War Hound's army had broken through the defensive line in a single day and were now heading towards Imperial Xia City. There would be a large battle in just a few days. Whether it was the leaders of the country or the military, they were all empty. The entire country was in a state of panic and the situation was very dangerous. At this time, Miracle Commerce's Meng Qingwu had brought Chu Tian back. Meng Qingwu was a famous person in Imperial City and was even called the #1 beauty in Southern Summer. This time, Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu had gone with the Southern Summer King to inspect the defensive line, so when the War Hounds broke through, the two of them were most likely dead. No one would have thought that Meng Qingwu would actually come back alive. Meng Qingwu had come back alive, but she did not look relaxed at all. Her snow-white clothes were covered in mud and blood, her hair was messy, and her face was haggard and weak. She was limping as she walked. It was clear that her leg was injured. Chu Tian's situation was even worse. He was currently unconscious and his life signs were very weak. Elder sister Chu Tian, Meng Yingying, Nangong Yun, and the others had been worried for an entire day in Imperial City. When they learned that the two of them had safely returned, they excitedly rushed out to greet them. "You guys scared me to death." Meng Yingying's eyes were filled with tears as she tightly hugged Meng Qingwu. "You two are Yingying's most important people. If anything happened to either of you, I wouldn't be able to live." Meng Qingwu patted Meng Yingying's back and also let out a sigh of relief. "There were several times when I thought I would never see you again, but it was all thanks to Chu Tian risking his life that I was able to come back. But Chu Tian's situation is not good." Meng Yingying's nerves tensed up. When she saw Chu Tian's body covered in blood, she couldn't help covering her mouth. What happened to Chu Tian? How did he get injured? How are his injuries? "I don't know either. Chu Tian was not injured. Most of his injuries were caused by himself. As for how serious his injuries were, Meng Qingwu could not guess, but looking at his weak life signs, it was very serious. "Then what are you still doing here?" Nangong Yun came over and carried Chu Tian. "Yingying, quickly go to the research institute and call out those old men. Let them take a look at Chu Tian." Chapter 331. In Miracle Commerce's headquarters, Meng Yingying was sitting beside Chu Tian rubbing her red eyes, while Nangong Yun was comforting her. Chen Bingyu, Feng Kai-dai, Yun Yao, and the others all had pained expressions on their faces. There was a group of old men whispering to each other, but they couldn't hear what they were discussing. They just had their brows knit together or were constantly sighing. The entire room was filled with a pessimistic atmosphere. "Are you guys done yet? Have you seen anything after looking at him for so long?" Nangong Yun had a fiery temper and couldn't help exploding. She anxiously scratched her head and shouted, "You only know how to sigh, sigh my ass. What's the situation right now? Can boss be saved or not? Just give us a quick answer." Meng Qingwu and her sister's hearts were in their throats. This was what they wanted to know. "Don't be excited, don't be excited." Zhao Pu gave a few awkward coughs. "Forgive me for being blunt, the chairman's situation is very bad. All his organs are showing signs of failing, and there are many broken meridians. His spirit energy is weakening, but this is not the main reason. The chairman cultivates the starlight immortal body, so his physique is very strong and his recovery rate is very high. Otherwise, if it was a normal person, they would have already died. The most troublesome part is that the chairman has overdrawn his vitality." Meng Yingying nervously asked, "His vitality is lost? What does that mean?" Old Zhao's meaning is that the chairman might have forcefully used a forbidden technique with large side effects. This forbidden technique might have burned his vitality as a price, so it caused a serious overdrawing of his vitality. Simply put, if the chairman could live to be 100 years old, he might not even be 50 years old right now. Moreover, his vitality is still weakening. How could it be like this? Everyone revealed a look of shock. This side effect was too terrifying. Chu Tian was still this young. If his vitality was damaged early, wouldn't that be a very bad thing? Meng Qingwu finally understood. Although Chu Tian had a heaven-defying strength, he rarely used it. The main reason was because if he used this strength too much, not only would it attract the attention of others, it would also be very dangerous for him. Meng Yingying was at a loss. Then what should we do? Right now, there's still hope to recover from the initial damage. If it takes too long and causes the lost vitality to completely solidify, then it'll be harder than ascending to heaven to replenish it. Meng Qingwu quickly asked, "Just tell us what materials we need. It doesn't matter how much it costs." "Vice President, this is not a matter of money. It's just that with the resources of Southern Xia, I'm afraid that we won't be able to find a medicine of this level. Not even in the whole of Southern Xia." The few old men looked at each other and sighed. This kind of heaven-mending medicine must be of immortal grade. The women's faces instantly turned pale. Immortal medicine? Where in Southern Xia could they find immortal herbs? Southern Xia was a small country. The spiritual energy in the land was relatively poor and there weren't many sacred medicines growing there. Most of the sacred medicines were imported from abroad or dug out from ancient ruins. How could they find immortal herbs? They could only go to large countries or even empires to buy them, but immortal herbs were very expensive. Miracle Commerce's reserve of several billion gold coins sounded like a lot in Southern Xia, but what did it count for in that kind of place? Immortal herbs were often priceless. Even if Miracle Commerce had enough money, they still wouldn't be able to buy them. Chu Tian's condition could not be dragged on. Once it was dragged on, the side effects would be permanent. At that time, even if they obtained immortal herbs, they would not be able to save him. Meng Yingying said with some difficulty, "Elder sister, what do we do?" "Don't be afraid. No matter what price we have to pay, we will definitely save Chu Tian." Meng Qingwu tightly clenched her fist. Actually, no one knew that the one feeling the most guilty right now was her. The reason why Chu Tian was injured like this was mostly because of her, so she had to save him no matter what. Southern Xia doesn't have any medicine, so we'll look elsewhere. I believe we'll definitely find it. Meng Qingwu asked the old men. Then when will Chu Tian wake up? That's hard to say. Zhao Pu stroked his beard. Not only is the chairman's body injured, his mind is also exhausted. I'm afraid he'll need to sleep for 2-3 days, so I suggest the chairman rest well. This way, he can recover from the damage to his mind. They could only do this. Vice chairman. At this time, a Miracle Commerce employee ran in a panic. The Burning Sun ruler, the Refined ruler, and the Great Scholar are here. They want to see the chairman. The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler are here? Ying, take care of Chu Tian, I'll go take a look. Meng Qingwu came out with several people. The Burning Sun ruler was wearing a thick scarlet armor, and the Refined ruler was wearing a golden silk armor. There were several important people behind them, including the great scholar Gu Qianqiu. The Refined ruler opened his mouth and asked, "Where is Chu Tian? Have him come out." "What do you mean?" Meng Qingwu was a bit afraid of the Refined ruler. The Shangguan family did not have a good relationship with Miracle Commerce, so it was hard to say what the Shangguan family would do in this special time. The matter on the front lines was an accident. As for the Southern Summer King's death, even Chu Tian can't do anything about it. Do you want to go to his door to punish him? It's a misunderstanding. Refined ruler, can you put away that stinky face of yours? The Burning Sun ruler glared at the Refined ruler and then said to Meng Qingwu, "Now that the country is in trouble, how could Southern Xia destroy its own walls? We already know what happened and Chu Tian did his best. No matter who is to blame for the matter on the front lines, it can't be blamed on Chu Tian. Not to mention that Chu Tian has already been bestowed the title of country guarding ruler by our king. His ruler rank is above us too." "Then you are Vice Chairman. Southern Xia has already reached a life and death juncture." Gu Qianqiu also came out to speak at this time. After thinking about it, perhaps only Chu Tian has the means to turn the tide. "So, we want to see him and ask for a way to save the country." "So it's like this." Meng Qingwu's heart sank. The Refined ruler and the Burning Sun ruler had lowered their statuses to find Chu Tian, clearly seeing him as their last hope. This meant that the situation was already very bad. When Chu Tian was coming back, he fought with a war hound's true spirit expert and is currently in a coma. "I'm afraid he won't wake up for now." "Damn," the Burning Sun ruler angrily said. "How could it be like this?" Gu Qianqiu's expression also changed. "The war hound's army is already showing signs of moving. What should we do?" Meng Qingwu was shocked. "What? They're coming this quickly? The frontline battle is very fierce. Don't they need to adjust?" The Refined ruler said with a dark expression. After the war hound's army reached the southern summer border, not only did their strength not weaken, they even added large amounts of siege troops from the war hound's plains. They will reach Imperial City in 3 days, and Imperial City's defenses cannot stop the Fang King's personally led army. What should they do? The various marquises are quickly returning to Imperial City, but there is no time to move the troops north. The Burning Sun ruler tightly clenched his fist. There's no other way. Even if we have to risk our lives, we can only fight them once. The chances of winning this battle were very slim. Southern Xia had 400,000 soldiers, 2 true spirit experts, the Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler, and adding in the marquises from various regions, their battle strength was guaranteed. But in a normal clash of strength, Southern Xia would lose without a doubt, so they came to ask Chu Tian for help. They hoped that Chu Tian could find 1 or 2 strange moves for Southern Xia. Meng Qingwu never thought it would be this coincidental. Chu Tian would not wake up for a while, so who else had the ability to save Southern Xia other than him? If the country fell, not only would Miracle Commerce lose its footing, if they lost Miracle Commerce, what would they use to exchange for the immortal medicine? The war hound's attack would arrive in an instant, so they couldn't escape this calamity. But how should they deal with it? If it was Chu Tian, what would he do? Chu Tian could always think of a way to turn the tide, there was nothing that could stump him. The reason why they were in such a sorry state at the frontline fortress was because Chu Tian did not know anything and lacked information. Otherwise, with Chu Tian's style and ability, even the powerful Warhound's kingdom would not have made him suffer such a large loss. Meng Qingwu felt a wave of powerlessness. She did not have Chu Tian. He was at most an outstanding merchant. He could not do anything big at all. Wait a minute. I got it. Imperial City did not have a chance of winning. The calm martial ruler had secretly built a weapon factory outside the city. There were at least 10,000 source energy weapons. If these source energy weapons were taken out to equip the soldiers, it would increase the defensive power of the army by a large amount. Meng Qingwu immediately told this idea to the Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler. The two of them were very shocked. Imperial City actually stored this many source energy weapons? Even the two of them did not know about this matter. The Southern Summer King had truly hidden it too well. Gu Qianqiu also said, if there were enough source energy weapons, this battle might not be impossible. Only the Imperial City's source energy factory has only been built for a short period of time, so at most there are 10,000 source energy weapons. Although they can be used in battle, it will be hard to turn the tide. Just the source energy weapons aren't enough. Do we need to prepare something else? What is it? Wait a minute. Meng Qingwu returned to her room and took out a communication device, immediately contacting the Central State Yun sect. Vice Chairman, is that you? Yun Tianhe's voice came from the communication device. I heard that something big has happened in the Imperial region. Shen Fengho quickly left Central State 2 nights ago. What is the situation over there? Time is pressing, it's not the time to talk about this. Meng Qingwu did not want to explain in detail. Has the Yun sect produced any results on the source energy bomb they have been researching? It's done, but it hasn't reached the chairman's requirements yet. Meng Qingwu felt a glimmer of hope. Use the image transferring mirror to send the relevant technology over. This technology is related to the fate of Imperial City. You have to be fast. Alright. Yun Tianhe understood Imperial City's current situation. I'll immediately send it over. Wait a minute, I haven't finished. What else do you have to say? Immediately contact the giant shark gang's boss Yu and have the fleet head north to Tsang State. If something happens to Imperial City, they can help us retreat to the south. Even if the worst happens and we can't escape Imperial City, they can at least help the calm martial ruler and protect the last elite army for the southern summer country. Yun Tianhe was very shocked. Could the situation in Imperial City have worsened to this degree? Meng Qingwu was not as impulsive as Chu Tian. She was very cautious in everything she did, so she had prepared an escape route ahead of time. If Imperial City couldn't be defended, Miracle Commerce's only chance of survival would be on the water route. The Warhounds lived on the prairies and were mainly ground cavalry. If they could retreat to the water route, it would not be easy for them to chase after them. That's right, there's one more thing. Meng Qingwu would not forget the most important thing. Activate all the Miracle Commerce radio stations and send out a purchase message to the entire country. What do you need? Yun Tianhe calmed himself. I ask Vice Chairman to tell me. We need a level 2 immortal herb. A level 2 immortal herb that can recover innate vitality. What? An immortal herb? How can this thing be bought in southern Xia? Even if there is a miracle commerce, what can we use to buy it? I know it is hard, but it is related to Chu Tian's life and death. Even if there is a trace of hope, we still have to try. Could it be that the chairman? Yun Tianhe's voice trembled a bit before he said in a hoarse voice, Relax, this old man will do his best. In the face of Miracle Commerce's life and death, I'll leave everything to you. Meng Qingwu gave a long sigh after ending the call. She could only do this much right now. As for the final result, it was not something Meng Qingwu could predict. Chapter 332. Meng Qingwu gave the source energy bomb blueprints from Central State to Gu Qianqiu. With this kind of strong destructive weapon, perhaps it could deal a heavy blow to the war hounds and turn the tide on the battlefield. For now, we can only do this. Use the source energy guns. Make source energy bombs. The source energy weapons were top secret, and the Burning Sun ruler and the refined ruler knew very little about them. Of course, it was impossible for them to completely hide it with their statuses. At least the two of them had investigated Chu Tian and knew that Chu Tian had a weapon factory in Central State, but they didn't know the specifics of the source energy weapons. Now that the Southern Summer King was dead and the calm martial ruler couldn't come back, Southern Xia was in danger of being destroyed. All the resources and strength they had to be used at this time. So with Gu Qianqiu's strong support, the two rulers decided to bypass the king's ban and forcefully open the source energy weapon factory. Meng Qingwu personally checked the source energy weapon factory's inventory. There were around 14,000 source energy pistols, 2,000 source energy submachine guns, 50,000 magazines for the pistols, and 10,000 magazines for the source energy submachine guns. The energy magazines were all shipped from Central State and were not made in the Imperial region, so there weren't many of them. It was already too late to ship them. These magazines should be able to last for a while. The source energy pistols could kill early awakened soul cultivators or low-level 2 demon beasts, but they were slow and their range couldn't compare to long-range weapons like bows and arrows, so they could only be used in close combat. The refined ruler suggested, there aren't many source energy weapons, so it's impossible to fully equip them. We can only use them to counter them. From the information from the front lines, the Warhound's trump card army is a wolf cavalry army. The demonic wolves are very agile and have very fast reactions, so it is hard to injure them with a rain of arrows. This source energy weapon is suitable to counter them in close combat. The Burning Sun ruler suggested, the Nangong family's Wild Flame army is one of the best heavy-armored infantry in southern Xia. They are stronger than the southern state barbarians and can block the charge of the demonic wolf cavalry. If they are equipped with source energy pistols, they can form a strong resistance. That makes sense. The two rulers decided to equip the 10,000 source energy pistols with the Wild Flame heavy infantry and an additional 500 submachine guns to increase their firepower. This infantry group was personally commanded by the Burning Sun ruler, so they had strong close combat abilities. Now that they had these weapons, naturally their strength would increase by a large amount. Gu Qianqiu suggested, there are still 2,000 source energy submachine guns left. This old man recommends equipping them to the Royal Griffin Knights. The Griffin Knights are the strongest army in Imperial City and even in southern Xia. They have the advantage of air suppression, and if they have the support of strong submachine guns, they will become a nightmare for the war hounds. The Griffin Knights had exactly 2,000 men left. This army was already extremely powerful, and now that they had the suppressive firepower, their strength had increased by at least several times. It was enough to suppress the enemy from the air at critical moment. No wonder our king is so confident that he's ready to start the northern expedition. The Burning Sun ruler was filled with excitement. My southern Xia has this kind of powerful weapon. We indeed have the ability to flatten the war hound plains. What a pity! They never thought that the war hounds would be a step faster. In the end, he died before he could fulfill his ambition. Could it really be the will of the heavens? If the war hounds attacked a month later, the first batch of source energy weapons would have been sent to the army. When the southern Xia army had over 100,000 source energy weapons, how could it be easy for the war hounds to break through the front lines? There were no assumptions in this world. Meng Qingwu was still not optimistic. She had seen the battle strength of the Warhound's army, and these 10,000 source energy weapons could increase Southern Xia's battle strength. But the increase was limited. It was impossible for them to resist the several 100,000 warhounds' army. Just relying on the source energy weapons was far from enough. Meng Qingwu ordered all the source energy batteries stored in Imperial City to be taken out for emergency modification. Gu Qianxiu gathered several thousand scholars to participate in the production. All kinds of source energy batteries were transformed into simple source energy bombs, allowing everyone to mass-produce source energy bombs. The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler also quickly deployed their troops, preparing talismans, medicine, arrows, and war equipment. The several million people in Imperial City were mobilized. When the nest is overturned, there are no intact eggs. No matter what conflicts the families had, they were all united to fight against the enemy at this moment. Large amounts of source energy bombs were made before long. These bombs are very unstable, so we have to be very careful when using them. Otherwise we might injure ourselves, and it might lead to unimaginable dangers. Meng Qingwu directed the scholars to deploy the bombs. Our bombs are very limited, so we have to make sure we can use them on the battlefield. It's best if we can catch them off guard and deal them a heavy blow. When Meng Qingwu was busy deploying, a piece of good news came. Other than Tsang State's Green Cloud Marquis, the other 7 southern summer marquises had gathered in Imperial City, including Shen Fengho, the Golden Arrow Marquis, the Four Direction Marquis, and the others. These marquises had come in a hurry, only bringing their personal guards. There were only around 3,000 people, but these 3,000 people were very strong. After Meng Qingwu learned of the situation, she immediately went to the royal palace to see them. When the Western Marquis saw Meng Qingwu appear, his face turned dark and filled with shame. He would never forget the humiliation miracle commerce had given him in his life. Although he did not see Chu Tian, seeing Meng Qingwu was enough to make his teeth itch. Meng Qingwu was most worried about internal problems in Imperial City. Why did the front lines collapse? A large part of the reason was Wang Tianlong's betrayal, so Dongfang Zhan had to personally suppress it. Because the frontline marshal had left the command post, he could not respond to the situation at the back, speeding up the collapse of the front lines. Qingwu greets the Western Marquis. Meng Qingwu also nodded. Chu Tian has offended the Western Marquis, so after this matter is over, Qingwu will personally apologize. But with the enemy in front of us, I ask the Western Marquis to cooperate. Shangguan Hong, you are still the Southern Summer King's second-class military marquis. The refined ruler reprimanded him with a look of dissatisfaction. With the country in danger, personal grudges are not worth mentioning. This ruler does not want the Shangguan family to bear the crime of destroying the country. The Burning Sun ruler also said, Chu Tian has already become the country-guarding ruler and is the leader of the rulers, so it is not shameful for you to suffer this loss. Now that the war hounds are in front of us, we must cooperate. Yes. When the Western Marquis saw the 2 rulers come out to speak, how could he dare act out? He immediately cupped his hands and said, Shangguan Hong will face the danger with my own body, even if I die 10,000 times. Meng Qingwu was relieved seeing this. She looked at Shin Fengho and the Golden Arrow Marquis. You guys came this quickly? Shin Fengho nodded. My king sent out a royal proclamation not long ago, requesting the southern states to make their preparations as well as a plan to move troops from the south to the north. We were already prepared to come to Imperial City at any time, so when we learned of the changes in the Imperial region, we immediately rushed over. It's a pity, the Golden Arrow Marquis said with a sigh. We rushed over, but we couldn't bring the army with us. There was no way around it. Although the armies of the various states had not arrived yet, the marquises were all peak experts of southern Xia and were all experienced generals, so they could handle this task by themselves. With the help of these people in Imperial City, their chances of winning this battle would increase by quite a bit. Shin Fengho's voice was a bit hoarse. I heard that the old marshal. Meng Qingwu gave a heavy nod. At this time, the marquises all had silent expressions. Whether it was Shin Fengho, the Golden Arrow Marquis, the Western Marquis, or the other marquises, as long as they were in front of Dongfangzhan, they would all respectfully call him the Marshal. This was because they had more or less worked under Dongfangzhan before, so they all admired Dongfangzhan's character. The pillar of the country had collapsed. How could they not sigh? What is the current situation? The Greenwood Marquis said. How should we fight? Meng Qingwu had already done her best. The source energy guns and the source energy bombs, these two things could greatly increase the chances of Imperial City's defense. However, the final result of Imperial City was not something that Meng Qingwu could predict. She could only leave it to fate. Meng Qingwu was a merchant, so she had no experience in analyzing the battlefield. She only knew that the War Hound's army was very strong, so how they would defend would depend on these people. The calm martial ruler was not here and the burning sun ruler had the highest rank in the army, so he was in charge of the defense. From now on, the entire city will be under military control and all food will be distributed. The citizens of the city will not be allowed to leave and the mercenaries will be used to fight. The Greenwood Marquis, Shin Fengho, you will be in charge of the southern defenses. The Golden Arrow Marquis, Western Peace Marquis, you will be in charge of the eastern defenses. The Western Marquis, Far East Marquis, I will leave the western defenses to you. The refined ruler and I will be in charge of the northern defenses. The military deployment will be as follows. The southern summer Imperial City was anxiously deploying and the War Hounds were quickly reorganizing, increasing the pace of their advance. This was because the Fang King was very clear that his time was limited. The calm martial ruler's 200,000 cavalry and the Green Cloud Marquis 200,000 cavalry, once they left the Tsang State Plains, these 400,000 highly mobile troops would return to the Imperial region and the War Hounds would fall into a difficult situation. This was a battle of speed. The Fang King had to rush back before the calm martial ruler returned and take down Imperial City. Once they took down Imperial City, Southern Summer would not have the strength to reverse the situation. Finally, the War Hound's army appeared to the north of Imperial City. The vast War Hound's army far surpassed their imagination, and the Imperial City garrison couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. The flags were like waves in the sea, and there were at least 700,000–800,000 of them. It was no different from when they attacked the front lines. This was strange. It was impossible for an army to increase in numbers as they fought. Although the War Hounds had a large victory in breaking through the front lines, they had lost at least 200,000 people. Why were there still so many soldiers in their field of vision? The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler found the problem because they recognized many old enemies among the War Hounds' army's flags. From the information they had received, these old War Hounds tribes did not participate in the battle. It was clear that the War Hounds had not completely submitted to the Fang King. There were some old War Hounds tribes that did not participate in the battle. This was most likely a bet between the Fang King and them. As long as they broke through the front lines of southern Xia, these old tribes would submit. If the Fang King was defeated, these old tribes would leave the Fang King and in the end, the Fang King would be the only one left. These old tribes had seen the Fang King's strength, so they had no choice but to accept it. The Fang King's army had gained a very precious air force. From the scale, there were around 20,000 people and they were all riding on vultures. This was a large vulture cavalry, and it was clear they were here to fight against the Griffin Knights in Imperial City. This was too hard to believe. An air force of vultures and a demon wolf cavalry. The mounts, soldiers, and equipment of these two armies were all the same. This was clearly something that could only be created with a strong breeding and manufacturing power. The War Hounds' breeding ability was not bad, but they couldn't create this many high-quality mounts. Moreover, the War Hounds' equipment manufacturing skills were very simple, so how could they create this kind of army? The Fang King rode a three-headed demon wolf, walking alone in the direction of Imperial City. This is the new Fang King? The Burning Sun ruler felt a pressure coming from the Fang King. This person's cultivation was higher than his by quite a bit, even the calm martial ruler could not compare. So it's a nameless person. Behind the Fang King was a group of Warhounds Kingdom experts, including 3-4 true spirit experts who were all old tribe chief. Other than that, there was also the Southern Summer rebel Wang Tianlong. The Fang King had sent out his full strength in this battle, preparing to capture Southern Summer's Imperial City in a single battle. The difference in strength between the two sides was too large, and the fall of Southern Summer was imminent, but the Fang King was not excited at all. Rather, he said with a dark expression, "Malum was killed by the two of you?" Who was Malum? The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler were stunned. "It was me who killed him." A sweet girl's voice sounded from the city walls. Meng Qingwu was not wearing her usual white robe, rather she was wearing a silver armor. She was fully armed like a valiant general. Gu Qianxia was shocked. Chairman Meng actually killed that person. The Burning Sun ruler asked in a strange voice, "What? Could it be that person's background is very big?" "Of course," Gu Qianxiu angrily said. "Malum is the Hellsong tribe's vice-tribe chief and a true spirit cultivator who worked with the rebel Wang Tianlong to kill my king." True spirit cultivator? Everyone was shocked. A weak girl like Meng Qingwu actually personally killed a war-hound's true spirit cultivator? This news was too shocking. Just the merit from this head was enough for Meng Qingwu to become a marquis. After all, in all these years, Southern Xia had never killed a warhound's true spirit expert before. Even if a warhound's true spirit expert fell, it would be because of internal strife. The entire warhound's army was thrown into an uproar. Malum actually died in the hands of a weak girl? The Fang King's face was extremely dark and his eyes seemed like they were about to spit fire. Chapter 333. The Nether Flame Blade Malum, the Hellsong tribe's vice-chief, had actually died to a weak awakened soul realm girl? This news was just too explosive. The various warhounds tribes were all discussing this. "You are insulting my tribe's warriors." The Fang King angrily roared, "How could you kill him? Don't you recognize this storage bag?" Meng Qingwu did not waste words as she took out a storage bag from the Fang King. Then she took out a long black blade from the storage bag. The long blade was tied up in strips of cloth. Because this saber was a top-grade soul-contracting weapon, Meng Qingwu had no way of gaining its approval, so she had no way of using it. "Even if you don't recognize the storage bag, I think you're not unfamiliar with this saber. Nether Flame Blade." Malum really died to her hands. Several War-Hounds Plains chiefs were whispering to each other as they all had strange expressions on their faces. No one sympathized with Malum's death, rather most of them revealed looks of disdain. The Fang King was unable to restrain his anger. Malum was his little brother and was the Fang King's most trusted and capable subordinate. If Malum was killed by a strong enemy, it would be a fitting ending for a brave warrior. But Malum had actually died to this weak little girl's hands. This was not just an insult to Malum, it was also an insult to their Hellsong tribe. The purple-gold thunder god's drum was suddenly raised. Lightning! The Fang King roared out as he released a bolt of lightning that exploded in the sky. It pierced through the clouds and charged at Meng Qingwu on the city wall. She could still release such a strong attack from this far away? The Fang King's strength was truly terrifying. This shocked the Southern Xia soldiers. The Refined ruler gave a cold laugh and the golden pen fell out of his sleeve. He drew a circle in the air and the lightning was instantly locked in. With a wave of the golden pen, the energy was sent back, shooting at the Fang King like a beam of light. The Fang King used the golden drum to block it and it was all sucked in. The Fang King softly asked, "You are the Southern Summer Refined ruler?" "It is this ruler." The many years of chaos in the war hounds were all secretly stirred up by you. The reason why Southern Xia can live until today is because of you. It's a pity that I haven't been able to grasp their recent movements. Otherwise, how could I have fallen to such a state? This ruler is clear on the situation of the warhounds' plains. It is impossible for them to launch this kind of attack. You are not a nameless person, so where did you come from? The Burning Sun ruler coldly said, Why are you wasting words with him? Since these warhounds beasts have come, then we'll let them experience the power of Southern Xia's arrows. Burning Sun ruler, refined ruler, I suggest you surrender. Before the Fong King could say anything, Wang Tianlong slowly walked out. Could it be that you still naively think that Southern Xia is only facing the warhounds' kingdom? Wrong. He was gravely mistaken. You don't know what happened at all, you can't win this battle. The Southern Xia people were already suspicious of the Fong King's origin. This was because the Hellsong tribe was a new tribe that had appeared in the warhounds' plains in the last 10 years, so they were fundamentally different from the other warhounds tribes. A tribe that was established in such a short period of time, it was impossible for them to establish a mature and complete army. 100,000 demon wolf cavalry and 20,000 vulture cavalry, where did they come from? There was only one possibility. The Hellsong tribe was just a representative, representing a foreign power. That was why Wang Tianlong was so confident. The Hellsong tribe is a noble of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. Wang Tianlong loudly shouted. The Warhounds' kingdom has already become one of the Eagle Burial warring kingdoms, and the Warhounds are now under the Eagle Burial Kingdom's influence. Do you think you have the ability to fight against a warring kingdom? Everyone's expressions changed. Eagle Burial Kingdom? Although this country did not have any contact with the Southern Summer Country, some people had heard of it before. This was also a kingdom, but it had already developed to the level of a warring kingdom. It had to be known that for a kingdom to become a warring kingdom, it first had to have a stable and rich national power. It also had to have a military strength that surpassed the surrounding areas, showing a tendency to expand to become a warring kingdom. A warring kingdom was also a kingdom, and its strength far surpassed a normal kingdom, even surpassing a normal large kingdom. In the future, it had the potential to become an empire. Didn't the Tianma cult create a heavenly demon warring kingdom in the past? Everyone was clear on how strong the Tianma cult was at its peak. Each branch of the 10 great inheritances had at least several true spirit realm experts. The small southern summer country's national power, compared to a warring kingdom, did not have any chance of winning. The Warhounds' kingdom had already become a warring kingdom. This generation's Fong King was not born on the Warhounds' plains, rather he was a king from the Spirit Beast warring kingdom, not an independent king. It was no wonder the Fong King could lead such a strong army. With the situation on the Warhounds' plains, this army couldn't be established even after several decades. This was clearly an army provided by the Spirit Beast warring kingdom behind the Warhounds' kingdom. It was because of this that the Fong King could sweep through everything, causing the front lines of Southern Xia to collapse in a single night. Now you understand, you have no chance of winning at all. Wang Tianlong said with a cold smile, not to mention you can't win today, so what if you're lucky enough not to be destroyed? In just a few days, the warring kingdom will send several times the number of soldiers. What use is there in defending? How long can you defend? You traitor! Shut up! A wise man submits to circumstances. The Fong King has ruled the plains and has now become the Fong King. Wang Tianlong was not moved at all. The destruction of the southern summer country is a fact. Only surrendering to the warhounds can save the 200 million citizens of the southern summer country from the flames of war. Southern Xia will still be Southern Xia. It will just be a subsidiary of the Warhounds' kingdom and a small piece of the Eagle Burial Kingdom's territory. Humans can still live their own lives and receive the protection of a strong warring kingdom, so why not? Don't be stubborn, there is no other way other than surrendering. Let Southern Xia become the spirit beast slaves? Let Southern Summer pay tribute to the warhounds? Impossible. Don't tell me you want Southern Xia to fall into death and destruction. Wang Tianlong loudly shouted, the lives of the millions of innocent citizens in Imperial City are in your hands. If you dare resist the warhounds' cavalry today, the city will be slaughtered on the day the city is broken. You better think this through. The defenders were a bit shaken. The strength of a warring kingdom was too terrifying. The small southern summer country couldn't even fight the warhounds. Even if the warhounds agreed, they would only be a large kingdom and a very unstable kingdom. How could they compare to a warring kingdom? Now that the warhounds' plains had the help of the Eagle Burial Kingdom, the warhounds' kingdom had been re-established. With the warring kingdom suppressing them, the warhounds would have fewer internal conflicts. The warhounds' kingdom had become a vassal state of the Eagle Burial Kingdom, so what qualifications did Southern Xia have to refuse becoming a subsidiary country? The countries of the continent were divided into three types. The first was an independent country. This was a country with complete sovereignty, diplomatic rights, and exclusive resources. It was not controlled by any outside powers and did not need to pay tribute. The second was a vassal state. A vassal state was not a kingdom, it could be a marquis state, or a sovereign state. This was a country with a noble title that was sent to various places, allowing them to have their own territory. The current Fang king was clearly a king of the Eagle Burial Kingdom, so he was given the title of king of the Warhounds Kingdom. Although the marquis had a high degree of autonomy in their territory, the highest commander of the Warhounds' army was still the king. Every year they mined the resources from the treasury, they had to pay a certain amount of taxes to the main country. The third was a subsidiary country. Subsidiary countries were different from the first two. Subsidiary countries were countries that were defeated or faced with a stronger country, so they surrendered. These subsidiary countries did not have any dignity and almost no sovereignty. Not only did they have to pay tribute, they also had to pay tribute and they could not have their own army. Subsidiary countries existed to work hard, growing food, cultivating resources, raising demon beasts, and etc. They were not allowed to keep the treasury and had to take it all out to pay tribute. Once Southern Xia became a subsidiary country of the Warhounds Kingdom, their people and resources would not belong to them. But if they resisted, with Southern Xia's national strength, how could they block the invasion of a large warring kingdom? Scram! A person like you who sells out your ancestors for glory, what qualifications do you have to shout here? Then I want to see how long you can remain arrogant in front of the Warhounds Kingdom's overwhelming strength. Wang Tianlong did not plan on keeping them here. Although the Fang king promised to make him the new Southern Summer King, the three great clans did not have any meaning in existing. Otherwise, with Wang Tianlong's current strength, how could he suppress these fellows? Kill, he had to kill them all. Wang Tianlong was very clear on the Burning Sun ruler's temper. Since they wouldn't give up until they saw the coffin, they could not convince them to surrender, so he would use strength to speak. The Fang king did not want to waste time. This was because the calm martial ruler did not give the Fang king much time. At this time, a deep bugle was blown. The Warhounds' army was preparing to attack. The vanguard was made up of giant beasts, leading around 50,000 Warhounds elite. Most of them were carrying tools to climb the walls, so this was the first wave of Warhounds to attack. Those giant beasts that looked like gorillas were over 10 meters tall, and each one was covered in incomparably thick armor. The threat that Southern Xia's archers posed to them was very limited, and even the arrows of true Soul Realm experts would find it hard to heavily injure them. Dong, dong, dong. The war drums became more and more intense. The speed at which this army charged out was becoming faster and faster. The burning sun ruler knit his brows. Will it really work? Relax. Meng Qingwu tightly clenched her fist. Just wait and see. A giant beast suddenly stepped on something and a large amount of energy was released from its foot. It released a large amount of light and heat in a short period of time. That wild energy was released like a tsunami, instantly blowing up the giant beast's leg. That giant shockwave sent several hundred war-hound soldiers flying, and quite a few of them were sent flying. The war-hound's vanguard formation fell into chaos. Hong, hong, hong. There were several large explosions. Several more source energy bombs buried underground were detonated. Without any warning, these giant monsters suddenly suffered a violent explosion. Basically, they were all blown to pieces. The power of this explosion was so strong that every time it was released, a black bowl-shaped pit would appear on the ground. Perhaps even a true Soul Realm expert would be heavily injured or even killed by this explosion. Fire! Meng Qingwu gave an order. Several catapults on the wall were launched and several tightly wrapped bombs flew out from the wall, falling in a parabola in the center of the war-hound's army. Hong! Another shining mushroom cloud appeared. Several hundred war-hound soldiers were in the range of the bombs and were immediately killed by this violent explosion. The war-hound's first wave did not even have time to fight before they suffered a heavy setback. Their originally low morale was restored by quite a bit. No matter what happened in the future, they would at least win this battle first. After all, the burning sun ruler and the refined ruler were not fools. If the situation reached a point where they could not resist, then they would naturally retreat. Bring the bow. Southern Xia's bombs were too strong, causing large losses to the war-hounds. This made the war-hounds experts very unhappy. When Southern Xia threw another source energy bomb, a war-hounds expert pulled his bow and shot an arrow at the bomb. Hong! This bomb exploded in the air. There were quite a few Southern Summer soldiers on the wall that were injured. When the source energy bombs were shattered, the fragments fell in different places like firework. Each fragment exploded, causing a certain amount of damage to the war-hounds tribe. What was this thing? The war-hounds were very shocked. Mind's eye. Wang Tianlong used his divine sense to observe the ground in front of him, and was surprised to find that there were many high-energy objects buried in the ground in front of Imperial City. It was these things that had blown up the war-hound's giant beast. Humph! The Fang King had clearly noticed this as he coldly raised the golden drum. Shoot the arrows in front of you. The war-hound's archers immediately pulled their bows and a large wave of arrows fell down. Those source energy bombs that did not explode in time were mostly detonated by the rain of arrows. Like this, the buried mines had lost their effect. It was a pity that there was too little time and Miracle Commerce did not have time to make enough source energy bombs. The war-hound's army did not care about death as they charged forward. They were about to reach the wall and the following battle would be very difficult. Perhaps they would have to fight a hard battle. Chapter 334. The war drums were like thunder, shaking the earth. The war-hound's army charged forward like a black mass, finally beginning their attack. When they entered the range of Southern Xia's archers, a terrifying whistling sound came from the sky. It was like a dark cloud was covering them, instantly blocking the sunlight as countless arrows fell down. Ice, flames, and explosions, these talisman arrows had shocking might, instantly causing the war-hound's army to suffer heavy losses. Release the arrows. Counterattack. A war-hound's chief personally led the charge. Let them see the might of the war-hound's kingdom. The war-hound's army charged forward with a strange roar, shooting arrows into the sky. Countless arrows fell onto the city walls, attempting to use the rain of arrows to suppress the resistance of the Southern Summer defenders. The refined ruler coldly ordered, "Activate the talisman array." The Shangguan family stood in a circle, each person holding a large flag covered in talismans. They slammed it into the city walls and the energy from the talismans began to interweave, forming a protective barrier around the city walls. The war hounds' arrows were all bounced off the protective barrier. The war hounds attempted to climb the city walls, but Southern Xia had already placed large amounts of talisman traps on the city walls. As long as the war hounds touched the traps, they would immediately trigger flames, frost, or explosions. How could it be easy for the war hounds' army to climb the city walls? The southern summer defenders just had to hold their ground. It was victory as long as the city was not broken. The calm martial ruler had escaped from Tsang's state and killed his way back, which would instantly change the situation. The Fang king knew this, so he did not hesitate to go crazy. The Fang king coldly stared at the intense battlefield. Move out with the vulture cavalry. Large amounts of black dots appeared in the clouds at this time. Countless war hounds soldiers riding vultures passed through the defensive line and appeared in the sky above Imperial City. After all, Royal City was not a fortress. The frontline fortresses were almost completely enclosed fortresses, but it was impossible for Royal City to be enclosed. Therefore, the aerial troops could completely bypass the defensive line and land in the center of the city to launch an attack, breaking through Royal City's defenses from the inside. Large amounts of war hounds soldiers fell down from the sky like dumplings. The war hounds' vulture cavalry had transported at least 30,000–40,000 war hounds elites into Imperial City. If these 30,000–40,000 elites and 20,000 vulture cavalry attacked from the inside, it would be a large disturbance and trouble for Southern Xia. Wild Flame Legion, block the enemy's airborne ground troops. The Burning Sun ruler immediately ordered the Nangong family's Wild Flame Heavy Armor Corps to move out and form a solid defense for Imperial City. Griffin Knights, go forward and tie down these air forces. The 2,000 Griffins had been waiting for a long time. When they received the Burning Sun ruler's order, they immediately flew into the air and attacked the vulture cavalry that was 10 times the number in Imperial City. Although the Griffin Knights didn't have the advantage in numbers, their imposing manner wasn't inferior at all. The Griffins themselves were powerful level 2 magical beasts, and every single royal knight was a top-notch elite of Southern Xia. Even if the enemy outnumbered them 10-1, they would still have the ability to fight. Is this the strongest legion of Southern Xia? The commander of the vulture cavalry sneered. What a ridiculous bunch of fools! The Griffin Knights were the peak force protecting Southern Xia and Imperial City. In order to create the Griffin Knights, Southern Xia bought griffins from foreign sources at a high price each year and invested large amounts of resources into training the Griffin Knight. The Griffin Knights represented Southern Xia's authority in a certain sense. If they could defeat this army, it would be a destructive blow to Southern Xia's morale. Since they're seeking death, we'll let them see how strong our Eagle Burial Kingdom's air force is. The vulture cavalry commander loudly ordered, "Kill!" The Griffin Knight commander faced the dense amount of vulture cavalry and immediately raised his spear high up as he shouted, "Prepare for battle." The two airborne armies quickly moved, and when they were about to collide, the Griffin Knight commander loudly shouted, "Wind Blade Array!" 2,000 griffins simultaneously gathered their strength and released a wave of azure wind blades. The griffins were much stronger than the vultures, so this storm-like wind blade attack was very powerful. If they directly hit the vultures, they would definitely not be able to withstand it. In an instant, a large number of them would be wiped out. But how could it be this easy? The vulture cavalry was a regular army of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. Not only were they well trained, they also had rich battle experience. When the griffins gathered their strength, the vulture cavalry were already prepared and dodged at the same time. The blue wind blades passed through them, but not many of them hit their targets. Looking from the ground, the orderly vulture cavalry suddenly exploded. All the vulture cavalry moved in different directions, instantly forming a semicircle that seemed like it was trying to swallow the Griffin Knights. "Kill them!" The vulture cavalry completely surrounded the Griffin Knights, sealing off the space around them. After all, the vulture cavalry had the advantage in numbers. If they used a blockade strategy, the Griffin cavalry's movements would be hindered. Although the Royal Knights were very strong and the Griffin mounts were very fierce, the Warhound's Vulture cavalry weren't bad either. Once they were surrounded by the Vulture cavalry, it would be hard for them to escape in a short period of time. The Griffin Knight commander's face fell. Break through! How could it be that easy? Release the arrows. The Griffin Knights each had a spear. Most of the time, they relied on their griffins to charge through enemy lines. Griffins could shoot powerful wind blades, which could make up for their lack of ranged attack. Thus, the Griffin Knights didn't use ranged weapons. The Vulture cavalry's situation was different. The Vulture beasts had thick skin and flesh, and their speed when carrying heavy loads was outstanding. However, they didn't have the ability to attack from a distance. Because of this, during the selection process of the Vulture cavalry, the priority was to be a sharpshooter. There were even some strong Vulture beasts that were paired with 2 cavalrymen, one in charge of close combat and the other in charge of long-range attacks. The Griffin Knights had just entered close combat with the first row of Vulture cavalry when the second and third row of Vultures released a large wave of arrows. The front lines were pinned down by the melee attackers, while the back lines were shot from the shadows. With such a combination of ranged attacks and melee attacks, the Griffin cavalry couldn't hold on for long even with the Griffin's wind elemental defensive barrier. Almost immediately, the Griffin cavalry fell into a disadvantageous position. They tried to break out of the encirclement several times but failed. It really wasn't good. Southern Xia was a small country in the end, so they lacked experience in aerial battles. Even the elite Griffin Knights did not have much experience in aerial battles, so when they fought against a trained aerial force, even if they had an advantage in individual strength, they would still be suppressed. Dong, dong, dong. The Warhound's black tide of attacks became even fiercer. Whether it was the Imperial City or the Warhounds, the casualties were all increasing. Because the Vulture cavalry had sent a group of airborne soldiers into southern Xia, the city walls were in chaos. There were quite a few Warhound soldiers that didn't fear death climbing up the walls. Throw the bombs. Quickly! The southern Xia defenders had no way of dealing with the wildly climbing Warhound soldiers, so they could only throw the last batch of source energy bombs down from the city walls. In an instant, the earth shook and large amounts of explosions appeared on the city walls. Each source energy bomb released a terrifying light and heat, causing the Imperial City to tremble under this terrifying might. Each explosion occurred where the Warhound's soldiers were gathered, instantly tearing apart over 100 Warhound's soldiers. The Warhound's army was shocked by the terrifying might of the source energy bombs. The might of these weapons was just too terrifying. Don't care about them, continue killing. Southern Xia's city walls are about to be broken. The Warhound's army was incomparably fierce. These powerful source energy bombs could barely suppress the Warhound's attack, but it didn't take long for the Warhounds to return, attacking the city walls like ants. In terms of defense, southern Xia's Imperial City could not compare to the frontline fortress. Because Imperial City was too big and there were too many people, there were 9 city gates. The Warhound's army attacked 7 of the city gates at the same time, so Miracle Commerce had a limited amount of source energy bombs. Now that they were almost used up, there was no way to stop the Warhounds from attacking the city. The Griffin Knights that southern Xia was proud of were currently being suppressed by the Vulture cavalry, so they had no way to reinforce the defenses. Instead, more and more Warhound soldiers were creating chaos in Imperial City, wantonly setting fires and attacking, making the situation even more chaotic. Finally, there was a Warhound's army that successfully climbed up the city walls. The following troops continued to pour in like a tide, each one of them fighting without fear of death. The southern Xia army was much weaker in comparison. Meng Qingwu saw that many parts of the city walls were invaded by the Warhound's army, and she knew that Imperial City couldn't hold on much longer. She immediately said to the burning sun ruler and the refined ruler, "It's about time." The two rulers nodded. The burning sun ruler raised a flag high up and a horn sounded in southern Xia's imperial city. The Fang king knit his brows when he saw this. Could it be that southern Xia still had a move they hadn't used? At this time, the Griffin Knights that were surrounded by the Vulture cavalry suddenly began to counterattack. The 2,000 Griffin Knights charged forward with a lance in one hand and a source energy submachine gun in the other. "This weapon is—" Wang Tianlong was shocked when he saw the weapon the Griffin Knights were using. Wang Tianlong was not unfamiliar with this thing. He had seen it in Chu Tian's hands before. Only Wang Tianlong had always thought that it was a special secret treasure, but who would have thought that the Griffin Knights would all have one? Wang Tianlong had seen the might of this weapon before. If everyone had one, how terrifying would that be? The Griffin Knight commander loudly shouted, "Kill them all!" The war hounds did not even have time to react before the source energy submachine gun spat out a dazzling white flame. Over 1,000 energy bullets flew out faster than arrows. The firing speed was too fast and the attack was too sudden. How could the Vulture cavalry resist at such a close distance? In an instant, several hundred vultures fell from the sky, creating a gap in the Vulture cavalry's encirclement. The Griffin Knights used a storm of bullets to create a gap in the Vulture cavalry's formation, causing heavy casualties to the Vultures. Then they charged down the city walls, and the muzzles of their submachine guns swept across the war hounds' soldiers on the city walls. The sky was filled with dense light bullets. This was the effect of 2,000 source energy submachine guns firing at the same time. When the source energy bullets weren't fired, not only were they small, they were also faster than arrows. Shooting at such a close distance, these war hound soldiers did not have time to dodge at all. They were instantly killed, greatly reducing the pressure on the city walls. This was the Nangong family's over 10,000 Wild Flame heavy armor army. Their left hands held pistols and their right hands held large swords, currently fighting the war hound soldiers that dropped in. There was no suspense in the result as the war hound soldiers were defeated in one battle. How could they block this terrifying army? The Nangong family's Wild Flame heavy armor army already had strong close combat abilities, and now with the assistance of the pistols, they could easily pierce through an awakened soul cultivator's protective spirit energy. These war hound soldiers that dropped in were elites, but how many of them were awakened soul cultivators? This was a completely one-sided situation. They had regained their air superiority, relieved the pressure on the city walls, and cleared out the enemies in the city. The southern summer imperial city was becoming smoother and smoother, so the war hounds would not be able to break through imperial city. These humans really do have some methods. The Fang King's eyes seemed like they were spitting fire, but he was not flustered and exasperated. Rather, he calmly said, "How are the preparations on that side?" Wang Tianlong confidently said, "Please be assured, Fang King. Everything is prepared. These fellows won't be happy for long." "Good. Inform the Demon Wolf cavalry to prepare to attack." Chapter 335. The war hound soldiers that had been dropped by the Vulture Knights were being pushed back by the Nangong family's Wild Flame army. The Wild Flame army was Southern Xia's strongest infantry army. Each one was covered in incomparably thick armor, and it was hard for early awakened Soul Realm experts to break through their defenses. Moreover, the Wild Flame army was raised using the Nangong family's secret technique, so they were all tall and strong, almost not feeling any pain. Although they were in the peak 9th body refinement layer, their individual strength was close to an awakened soul cultivator. An entire 10,000 Wild Flame warriors held giant broadswords in their right hands and source energy pistols in their left. The war hound soldiers tried to break through the encirclement several times but failed, finally being forced back together. Almost at the same time, the Griffin Knights supported the city walls, instantly eliminating the pressure on the Southern Summer Army, giving the Southern Summer Army enough time to regain their footing. Although Imperial City was in a mess because of the flames of battle, the most dangerous wave of attacks had been blocked at this moment. The Griffin Knights once again began fighting with the Vulture Knight. Each Griffin Knight had at least one energy magazine left. In front of the high firing speed and firepower of the Source Energy submachine guns, the Vulture Knights could not form a proper battle formation. After a few rounds of attacks from the Griffin Knights, the Vulture Knights had suffered at least 3-4 times the casualties of the Griffin Knights. Ha 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 ha! The Burning Sun ruler punched a Warhound's general's body. His body was covered in blood and his red hair danced in the wind. He stared at the retreating Warhound's soldiers and wildly laughed. The Warhounds only amount to this much, daring to attack my southern summer country. I'll make sure you never return. The refined ruler had also killed several high-level generals. At this moment, the most dangerous wave of attacks from the Warhounds had been blocked. The Warhounds' Vulture Knights had suffered heavy casualties, and the elites that had been dropped into the city had been chased by the Wild Flame Army, with most of them having already died. The Warhounds had surrounded the city and suffered heavy casualties. If they chose to retreat now, it would not be easy to attack the city again. On one hand, after this battle, Southern Xia's confidence had increased, and on the other hand, the calm martial ruler was about to return. The Southern Summer Cavalry did not have much time left for the Warhounds. Miracle Commerce's Source Energy weapons had played a crucial role. It was because of the strong Source Energy weapons that the Griffin Knights could escape from their disadvantage, allowing the Wild Flame Army to easily defeat the Warhounds' elites. It was also because of the deterrence of the Source Energy weapons that the Warhounds' experts, including the Fong King, did not dare act rashly, greatly reducing the pressure on their defenses. The refined ruler took out the dark gold pen from the heart of a Warhound's general. When his eyes swept over the Warhound's army, he suddenly noticed a different situation. Where did their main cavalry go? With these words, the Burning Sun ruler was alerted. The most important part of the Warhound's army was the Demonic Wolf Cavalry. This was an army with a battle strength that made people's blood run cold. Only no matter how intense the battle was, the Fong King had always been calm and did not use this army to attack the city. Now that they looked over, they were surprised to find that the nightmarish Black Army had already disappeared. Southern Xia was cheering for their victory. The Burning Sun ruler stared at the Fong King. Although they were very far away, the Fong King's eyes did not contain any anger or frustration. Rather, there was a deep sense of cunning, as if he was waiting for something. This is bad. Could it be that he still had a backup plan? When the Burning Sun ruler and the refined ruler felt this was bad, there was a series of sounds of fighting that came from the center of Imperial City. There were also the faint roars of angry wolves mixed in. The Warhounds' elites that had been suppressed by the Wild Flame Army suddenly began to wildly counterattack like they were on steroid. Before the Wild Flame Army could react, from the roofs and corners of the surroundings, there were even people that jumped over the walls. Like a flood, thousands of Black Wolf cavalry appeared. This is bad. It was too sudden and the Wild Flame Army did not have time to counterattack. Countless Demonic Wolf cavalry swarmed over, instantly cutting into the Wild Flame Army's formation. Moreover, their numbers kept increasing, surpassing the Wild Flame Army in an instant. It was like a group of wild dogs fighting over a delicious piece of meat, instantly throwing the Wild Flame Army into chaos. The Warhounds' cavalry had appeared in Imperial City. Everyone was shocked. What was going on? Why would the Warhounds' cavalry appear in the city? A person quickly ran over to report, "The enemy is coming from the direction of the Nangong family." This is impossible. The Burning Sun ruler could not help but believe this. A large group of incomparably fierce black figures were continuously charging out. The agile Demonic Wolf cavalry jumped over the roofs, killing the innocent civilians and soldiers on the street. 5,000, 8,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. The Burning Sun ruler's wild flame heavy armored army in the city were instantly submerged. The demonic wolf cavalry became larger and larger, appearing in an endless stream. What the hell is going on? The Burning Sun ruler angrily roared out, but he suddenly thought of something. Could it be that the family's secret passage has been? The entire southern Xia imperial city was built by the three great clans, so during the construction of Imperial City, the three great clans would definitely build a secret passage outside the city for some reason. This was not a strange matter at all. But the security of the secret passage was very high. It could not be opened from the outside, and could only be opened from the inside. There were not many people in the Nangong family that had the authority to open it, especially in this kind of wartime situation. Then why would the secret passage be opened for no reason? At this time, countless demonic wolf cavalry suddenly surrounded a small group of Nangong family soldiers. The one leading them was not anyone else. It was actually the Burning Sun ruler's son, the departing Flame Marquis. The departing Flame Marquis was accompanied by several thousand departing flame guards he had personally trained. Departing Flame Marquis. Why is the departing Flame Marquis with the Warhounds people? Damn, could it be the departing Flame Marquis who let the enemy in? If the departing Flame Marquis opened the Nangong family's secret passage, everything would be logical. After all, the departing Flame Marquis was the head of the 8 marquises and the only first-class marquis. He had the powerful departing flame soldiers and had the authority to open it. Even if the family opposed it, the departing Flame Marquis could still open it with his strength. Ha ha ha! A true Spirit Realm Warhounds chief laughed beside the departing Flame Marquis. You never thought that this would be your end. The Burning Sun ruler's face turned red and black. He was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. Nangong Ling, you unfilial son! How dare you frame this old man for being unjust? How dare you frame the family for being unjust? Old fellow, you've gone senile. The departing Flame Marquis, Nangong Ling coldly said, the southern summer imperial city has around 7-8 million people, and this bustling city will be destroyed by you fools. I'm only doing this to protect the citizens. The Fang King has already promised me that as long as I help him take down Imperial City, he will spare the citizens and make me the ruler of the southern summer country. As for you, why are you still stubbornly resisting? Betraying your country for glory, but you have to use such a grand excuse? The refined ruler was filled with rage. Imperial City was about to be defended, but who would have thought that this kind of turn would occur? You are the shame of the southern summer country. Nangong Ling did not care. No matter what you say, the Dongfang family's southern Xia cannot be protected. The Nangong family and Shangguan family do not need to be buried with him. The true Spirit Realm Warhounds chief on the side was already impatient. Too much nonsense, attack. The demon wolf cavalry wildly charged at the city walls. Southern Xia's defenses were all external, so now that the enemy was attacking from the inside, how could they defend? The Fang King could feel the change in the city from outside the city. He gave a cold smile and raised the purple-gold Thunder God's drum in his hand. The time has come, follow me to attack the city. The Fang King personally made a move. Other than the Fang King, the Warhounds had at least 4 other true Spirit Realm experts. The number, scale, and battle strength of their army far surpassed that of southern Xia. Now that they were attacking Imperial City from the inside, how could the southern summer country defend it? 2 rulers of the southern summer country, let me face you! The Fang King stomped on the ground and jumped several dozen meters off the city walls. Using the depression in the city walls, he jumped several dozen meters again and actually landed on top of the city walls. The city walls were already burning and the soldiers were resisting the enemies coming from all directions. How could they concentrate their firepower on the Fong King? The Fong King casually raised the purple-gold thunder god's drum in his hand, and several southern summer soldiers surrounding him were turned to ashes by the lightning. The burning sun ruler said to Meng Qingwu beside him, "You guys retreat first and defend the royal palace." Chen Bingyu brought Meng Qingwu away from the battlefield. This battle was not something they could interfere with. The Fong King did not chase, and he disdained chasing, because the only people worthy of being his opponent in the entire imperial city were these two. The burning sun ruler and the refined ruler did not say a word as they attacked the Fong King at the same time. Hong, hong, hong. The entire city walls exploded. 3 true spirit realm experts fiercely clashed, and the destructive power of this level of battle was very shocking. Large pieces of the city walls collapsed, and the scene turned into a chaotic mess. At this time, 3 figures flew out at the same time and landed on the ruins. Both sides had only exchanged a few moves, but the refined ruler and the burning sun ruler were both injured, while the Fong King did not seem to have any injuries at all. He still had a relaxed appearance, and just from this point, it could be seen how big the difference in strength was. The Fong King said with a laugh of ridicule, "The 3 rulers of the southern summer country only have this much strength?" At this time, they were surrounded by the War Hound's army on all sides. The burning sun ruler and the refined ruler looked at each other. Retreat. The 2 of them retreated, and several War Hound's plains chiefs chased after them, but they were stopped by the Fong King. The Fong King calmly said, "There is no need to worry about 2 true spirit cultivators. Our mission is to take down the southern summer imperial city. Even if the Tsang state cavalry arrives, they won't be able to turn the situation around. No matter what tricks the other side plays, victory will still belong to us in the end. Yes, you will lead the troops to sweep through the southern summer army and destroy their last resistance." The Fong King's eyes were as cold as ice. As for these people, it doesn't matter if they live for a few more hours. Chapter 336. Chu Tian had been in a state of chaos for the past few days. He felt like he was floating in an empty space, and there were some cryptic and profound sounds lingering in his ears, sometimes near and sometimes far, sometimes strong and sometimes weak. Chu Tian felt like his entire body was immersed in chaos, and he was sinking into a bottomless abyss. However, at that moment, a towering and majestic demon god appeared in the endless darkness. This demon god had 9 eyes, and each eye had a different color. Each color represented a profound power in the world, and each eye seemed to contain the great Tao of heaven and earth. White was space, silver was time, green was life, black was death, purple was the soul, and gold was divine sense. The 9 eyes each represented an extraordinary power. The 9-eyed demon god was a supreme being that had 9 kinds of power outside of elemental energy. Chu Tian was very familiar with the 9-eyed demon god's power because he was Chu Tian and Chu Tian was him. It was just a reincarnation. However, what surprised Chu Tian the most was that the 9-eyed demon god felt very unfamiliar to him at this moment. This was because there was another eye on the 9-eyed demon god's body. This eye was closed the entire time, but it was releasing an incredible power. This eye is... Chu Tian felt like the 10th eye was about to open, and an irresistible power covered him, pulling Chu Tian out of the abyss of his consciousness. Was this just a dream? When Chu Tian woke up, he was covered in sweat. The 10th eye was the power sealed by the nameless ancient god, and the nameless ancient god had warned Chu Tian to not open this eye easily, otherwise there would be unimaginable consequences. What kind of power did this eye represent? Chu Tian felt a strong headache. Although he had rested for several days and his body hadn't recovered, his spiritual energy had gradually returned to normal. At least he could get out of bed and walk. "Yingying, why is it so noisy outside?" "Chu Tian, you're finally awake." Meng Yingying had a worried expression as she looked out the window. When she heard Chu Tian's voice, she immediately turned around in pleasant surprise, but then she said in a worried and fearful voice, Southern Xia's army has been defeated again, and the war hounds have killed their way into Imperial City. All the soldiers and civilians have surrendered and are fighting to the death, causing the entire Imperial City to fall into chaos. What? He was defeated again. Chu Tian immediately sat up. What the hell are these Southern Xia troops doing? The front lines fell because of a sneak attack. It's understandable that they weren't prepared, but how did King City fall as well? Meng Yingying gave a sigh. I don't know, elder sister won't let me go out. However, I heard elder sister Nangong say that it was the departing Flame Marquis who betrayed us and led the War Hound's army into the city through a secret passage. They worked together to break the city. Another traitor? Chu Tian felt a headache. If even Imperial City fell, wouldn't Southern Xia be finished? Like this, what would happen to the miracle commerce that Chu Tian had spent half a year to build? Where are we? Chu Tian found that this place was not the miracle commerce headquarters. The royal palace. For safety, elder sister ordered her subordinates to destroy the Yun sect research facility in Imperial City and burned the headquarters. Then she brought the other people from Miracle Commerce to the royal palace. The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler still have over 100,000 soldiers fighting to the death, using the royal palace as a stronghold. However, there are too many enemies, I think. Imperial City can't be defended. We need to discuss a retreat plan. Quickly come with me. Before he finished, the door was pushed open and Meng Qingwu quickly walked in. When she saw Chu Tian sitting up, she revealed a surprised expression. Chu Tian? You woke up at the right time. Chu Tian did not know what had happened recently. Did you just say retreat? What do you mean? There's no time to explain right now, every minute is more dangerous. Meng Qingwu quickly said to Meng Yingying, Quickly, let's go to the main hall. The main hall of the palace was not as glorious and peaceful as it usually was. At this moment it was filled with armored warriors. Looking out from the main hall, half of the city was burning. The thick black smoke had long covered the entire sky. Chu Tian saw several familiar faces, like the Burning Sun ruler, the Refined ruler Gu Qianqiu, Shen Fengho, the Golden Arrow Marquis, the Four Direction Marquis, and others. Everyone was bathed in blood and covered in wounds. When everyone saw Chu Tian, they revealed a complex expression. Chu Tian weakly said, The general situation, I've already heard about it. Now that Imperial City has fallen, there are only a few 100,000 soldiers left to defend the royal palace. I'm afraid we won't be able to stop the war hounds for long, so it's too late to do anything now. Have you thought about how to retreat? The Burning Sun ruler stomped his chest in regret. The fall of Imperial City is all this ruler's fault. How could the Nangong family give birth to such an unfilial son? The situation is already lost, it's too late to regret. The Refined ruler had a defeated look on his face at this moment. The southern summer country's north can't be defended. The Imperial region, Song State, and the departing Flame Marquis Furnace State will be lost, but the southern summer country has 6 states in the south. Each state has an average of over 100,000 soldiers, as well as the tens of thousands of miles of mountains and the 4 states' lake as a barrier. Perhaps they can stop the war hounds from swallowing the southern summer country. What we need to do now is to try our best to preserve the southern summer country's strength and defend the 6 southern states. There was really no way to reverse the current situation. The Fang King had experts like Clouds and his army had an overwhelming advantage. Imperial City had already fallen and was in chaos, being heavily damaged. Now that things had developed to this point, not to mention it was impossible to turn defeat into victory, even if they created a miracle and drove away the Warhound's army. So what? The front lines had collapsed and Imperial City had been destroyed. Was there any meaning in the Imperial region like this? At this moment, it was better to preserve their strength and move to the south, using their geographical advantage to block the war-hounds' invasion. The problem was how to move? The sounds of fighting outside were becoming more and more intense. The Burning Sun ruler said, "The Dongfang family has a secret passage in the royal palace. The eldest prince Dongfang Haoran has the authority to open it and knows how to open it. Now I ask the great scholar, the country guarding ruler, and the dukes to bring the remaining 1,000 royal knights and 20,000 elites of the three races to leave Imperial City through the passage. Of the 6 southern states, Central State has the best position and can become the new center of southern Xia, preserving the last bloodline of the southern Xia tribes." Dongfang Haoran was also covered in blood as he immediately walked out. "Understood. If this many people evacuate, will the war hounds not care?" The Burning Sun ruler revealed a determined expression, "Leave in peace. The refined ruler and I will lead the last of Imperial City's elites and fight the war hounds to the last moment. With us stalling for time here, they won't be able to chase after you." The meaning behind these words was that the Burning Sun ruler and the refined ruler were prepared to fight to the end. Why must the two rulers defend a broken city to the death? Gu Qianxiu immediately said, "Where there's life, there's hope." The Burning Sun ruler decisively said, "The fall of Imperial City is this ruler's greatest crime. I have let down the Nangong families Lai Zhu and the countless heroes of southern Xia. Only a bloody battle can redeem myself. This ruler has already decided to bring the Nangong family's direct descendants to defend and the Nangong family's branch families and youths under 20 will all be managed by Nangong Yun. From today on, Nangong Yun will be a new member of the Nangong family. I hope that we can treat the Nangong family's descendants well and let the phoenix be reborn in flames." Because of the departing Flame Marquis betrayal, the Burning Sun ruler was filled with guilt, so he decided to stay behind to buy time for everyone. This was understandable, but why did the refined ruler stay behind? There weren't many true spirit realm experts in southern Xia. Southern Xia's information system is managed by the Shangguan family. The Warhound plains changed and the Warhound's army suddenly attacked, but this ruler did not notice it at all, causing southern Xia to fall into disaster. The root of this is the Shangguan family's fault. The refined ruler said with a heavy expression, "This ruler has led the Shangguan family for several decades, but I have only been obsessed with power and benefits. I have forgotten the teachings of my ancestors and abandoned my duty. This ruler is incompetent. The Shangguan family's foundation is in Imperial City, so how could they be fine now that their nest has fallen? The Shangguan family is guilty, so we will fight to the last moment." These two people made Chu Tian suddenly understand something. The calm martial ruler had said that the Burning Sun ruler and the refined ruler were different from the other families he had met. Chu Tian did not understand at that time, but now he knew what he was referring to. From these two noble rulers, Chu Tian saw something normal families did not have: honor and dignity. As rulers of the southern summer country, even if they knew they would die, they would still fight to the last moment. Chu Tian. A low and deep voice sounded in his ears. The Western Marquis was holding a pen dripping with blood as he looked at him. "To be honest, I still hate you to the bone, but it's a pity that I won't have a chance to take revenge. If you are a southern summer man, you will shoulder your responsibilities. Otherwise, even if I turn into an evil spirit in the underworld, I will not let you off." Hong. The sound of the walls collapsing came from the royal palace. The Burning Sun ruler shouted at everyone, "Retreat, otherwise it will be too late. The overall situation is important." The refined ruler also said, "Let's go." Chu Tian cupped his hands to the two of them. "Today's disaster is not only a humiliation for everyone, it is also a humiliation for me, Chu Tian. Today, I, Chu Tian, swear that there will be a day when the Warhound's plains will be flattened." The Burning Sun ruler gave a laugh. "It's enough with your words. The War Hound's kingdom's destruction is just around the corner. My king has given you the title of country-guarding ruler in this crisis. It is clear that he has high hopes for you. Now that southern Xia is in danger, I hope that the ruler can withstand the collapse of the southern summer country in this critical moment. The refined ruler walked in front of Chu Tian. The grudge between you and the Shangguan family will be written off by this ruler. Please treat the Shangguan family's descendants well. Let's go. It will be too late if we don't leave now. Gu Qianxiu said to Dongfang Haoran, quickly, open the secret passage. The youths and branches of the three great clans, the Griffin Knights, the important scholars and geniuses, there were a total of 20,000 people. They first went to the royal palace treasury to move the things that could be moved, and the things that couldn't be moved were burned down. Finally, under Dongfang Haoran's lead, they left through the royal palace's secret passage. Hong dong dong. The royal palace doors slowly opened. The burning sun ruler and the refined ruler looked at the southern summer imperial city in flames, as well as the dense war hound's army. Their hearts were filled with emotions. They never would have thought that the bustling city from a few days ago would have this kind of earth-shattering change in just a few short nights. The southern summer country that had rested for several decades had been completely burned down by a single fire. The southern summer king was dead. The frontline Marshal Dongfang Haoran was dead. Next was the burning sun ruler and the refined ruler. Old man Nangong, we are a bit unwilling to end things like this. That's right, we are too unwilling. But we are old, so we'll leave the future to the youths. At least we can leave in a beautiful manner, our lives won't be in vain. Let's go. The two true spirit experts flew into the air at the same time, leading the experts of the three great clans and their final army to attack the War Hound's army one last time. Fighting like cornered beasts, each person had the determination to die. The War Hound's army suffered a fierce attack, and the fierce battle lasted for half a day. The next morning, the flames of battle gradually calmed down. The Fang king stood in the ruined royal palace and looked over the entire imperial city. From today onwards, this land would be completely conquered by him. Reporting to the Fang king, Dongfang Zhan, Shangguan Sangfeng, and Nangong Yan's corpses have already been buried in imperial city. Good. Wang Tianlong anxiously charged in and said, "We haven't found the corpses of Chu Tian's group. What are you nervous about?" A war hound's chief said in an uncaring voice, "In this kind of battle, it is normal for the corpses to be destroyed." Impossible. Wang Tianlong had a premonition. He is most likely still alive. The war hound's soldiers did not care. So what if he was alive? The southern summer imperial city had been captured and the elites had all been killed. What else could they do to turn things around? The Fang king thought about it and said, "I'll give you the vulture group, search for their whereabouts." It was too late. The escape route Meng Qingwu had left was now in use. At this time, at Song State's ferry, the giant shark gang fleet she had arranged ahead of time was already waiting. The younger generation of the three great clans and the important talents of Imperial City were currently boarding in an orderly manner. Meng Qingwu looked at the hazy sky and her heart was very heavy. She never thought that they would leave Imperial City like this. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.